evening, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry. You're listening to the Two Mikes right here on Talk Sport. First, the good news. The England game is over. Now the bad news, the scoreline is going to mask how awful Pep Southgate's team actually is. England won 4-0, but they took 53 minutes to break down the 190th ranked team in the world. Welcome to the brave new world of Pep Southgate and his football team. Can there be anything worse than actually watching England play? 08717 22 33 44. Coming up later in the show, we'll be celebrating Scotland's great victory against Lithuania and its winners and losers as well, which unbelievably Porky's leading. You can vote in it later on. You're listening to the Two Mikes with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry, right here on Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mikes. It is an international week, and I'm terribly sorry to say that we've had to watch England playing Malta at a terrible, terrible pace, at a terrible, terrible time. Here's Mike Parry to give you his verdict. Very good evening to you, Mr. Parry.
Yeah, very good evening to you, MG. Well, I was asked earlier in the day, when I was elected onto the panel on the Hawksby and Jacobs show.
Well, you've already been on Talk Sport.
Oh, yes, absolutely, yeah.
You didn't mention that to me.
Well, why should I mention it to you? What's it got to do with you?
Well, because I imagine that as we are the Two Mikes, if you are ever asked to go on, they normally would ask both of us to go on.
Well, they rang up and they wanted an expert.
Did you not say, are you getting MG on as well?
No, I didn't know.
Why not?
Well, because you're probably out on the Bladderation Trail somewhere.
I actually had a very important meeting today.
And did you? Good. Oh, well, you can tell us all about that later.
I will,
And so I went on to the panel.
Oh, so you went on, did you?
I predicted...
Who else was on this panel?
I don't know other people, but they weren't as influential as me. No, and let me tell you, my prediction for the England score was 4-0.
Well,
what was the score again?
The score was indeed 4-0. However, my problem with the scoreline is that actually it's a misrepresentative scoreline because what it tells you is England had a fantastic victory against Malta, which is not true.
No, it's not.
They took them 53 minutes to score a goal against a team which is ranked 190th in the world.
Yeah, I honestly, I thought...
And the last two goals went in right at the end.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't really count.
I thought it was dreadful, actually, the whole thing. And the other thing is that for the first 45 minutes, first 53 minutes actually, old Pep Southgate was wandering around there looking for an answer, or even trying to find the question.
Well, indeed,
to give an answer to.
But he looked very dapper in his tie, didn't he?
Well, he might have looked dapper, but you know that we got all the old propaganda again this week about
propaganda.
Pep's been using his time so usefully. Southgate's been to the All Blacks training camp,
What's
and
he found out.
Well, I've no idea. And he said that they have a mantra in the All Blacks, and it is, we're real men. We don't tolerate Richard heads, right?
Richard heads?
Well, they didn't say Richard heads. They said something else.
Right, okay.
If you abbreviate the word Richard, that's what he was talking about,
Yeah.
And
they've had one or two problems in recent memory, have they not, the All Blacks?
And he kept repeating this mantra all the time, you know what I mean? And
well, it's a bit difficult for him to have that mantra, I would have thought, since he might be described as one of those people.
Well, no, that's very unfair. But what I was going to say was, when I looked at the way Sterling was playing tonight, is it any wonder that nobody wanted him in the transfer market, even as a make-weight? Because he can't even trap a ball.
Well, no, but Sterling, to me, has always been all about sort of sound and fury and not very much kind of energy.
That's right.
In the right direction. He runs great sideways, doesn't run forwards.
Well, he does run forward sometimes, but then loses the ball.
Yeah.
Tonight I saw him on half a dozen occasions either fail to trap the ball or having trapped the ball and tried to move forward, running straight into the defender.
He runs into the corner
and
flag
losing the ball. Yeah. He was hopeless, absolutely. I mean, not in a million years would you have described him as an England player.
But it's the whole thing, right? And I've said this many times, and you get sick and tired of saying it, actually, and loads of people on Twitter are saying it as well, that basically it's so dull and so boring watching England playing football that you just don't want to do it. It fills you with dread. They had 3 shots on target, I think, up until the first goal went in 53 minutes. That's just horrendous. I mean, they're not playing a team, which is particularly well endowed with players.
No.
Just because they've got 8 men behind the ball should not mean that they can't score a goal.
Yeah, that's right. Livermore was very poor as well.
Do we not need to give out the phone number, by the way, because we need people to talk to us about it?
Oh, yes, we do want people to talk to us about it, please.
I can't imagine, because I'd also like people to ring me up and tell me, is there anything worse than watching England playing football? Is there?
Well, there are a lot of things worse. There's worse things going on in the world. There's floods happening in Houston.
Well, we'll be going over to Houston later.
And there's, international tension in Korea, and there's wars in Africa. So there are worse things.
I suppose you could have Wayne Rooney downstairs waiting for you to drive you home. That could be worse.
No, that's a bit harsh.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, that's it below the belt a bit, isn't it?
Why is it below the belt? He's just been charged with drunk driving, isn't he?
Well, yes, but he hasn't been convicted of it yet. So
that's not what I said.
I think, you haven't. No, all right, well, I suppose it's fair enough. He's due to appear,
you wouldn't want to get a lift home with him, would you?
Sorry?
You wouldn't want to get a lift home with him?
Well, the strangest thing is why... When people have so much wealth and money and all that kind of stuff, they don't have drivers.
Well, why was he driving a Volkswagen Beetle? Would be my question.
Well, the answer to that apparently is that he was trying to assist a damsel in distress. And,
a damsel in distress?
Allegedly.
Well, it's not the Canterbury Tales we're living in.
No. I mean...
a damsel in distress?
The report I read, and I say it's an alleged report, is that he was trying to help somebody else to get home,
right.
and he took the wheel, which obviously was perhaps ill-advised or very ill-advised.
Well, do you know what? We might actually get to see the front pages tonight on this very show.
Oh, I'm sure we will.
I would imagine Wayne Rooney's face will be all over those front pages.
Oh, he will.
And I would imagine as well that basically there will be all sorts of reasons as to why he was out until that time in the morning, who he was with, what he was doing, how much he had to drink. There'll be an awful lot of detail that we will be able to impart to the audience later.
He's the most famous man in Britain at the moment, again, but to feel a sense of freedom. And
it's a bit like when I go away and leave you to your own devices.
Yes.
Similar kind of situation.
Yeah, and I just get on with business, that's right. But look, that's a case that's still got to unfold, really.
Now, listen, we've got loads of calls to take already.
We certainly have,
we'd like to give you the number, which is, of course, 08717 22 33 44. Mr. Parry will give it out in a much slower form very, very shortly. Keep your tweets coming in at the two mics, at TalkSport as well. We'll take those. CJ, however, is a Coventry fan. He's been at the game.
Yeah.
CJ, a very good evening to you.
Hello, Mike.
Yeah, hello. What do you think? Are you in Malta?
I am, yeah. I've got to say, I wasn't very inspired by our performance.
Yeah.
I thought we struggled to break down a team that you could say was well organised, but still, we should be breaking them down pretty easily. We should be winning at half time at least, shouldn't we?
Well, exactly right. I mean, I must say I've got great admiration for you. I mean, Malta's a great place to go.
Yeah.
But you must have realised that travelling now to go to see England is almost in certainty going to lead you to this kind of situation at the end. You're going to feel like it was a waste of time.
I'll do every game, mate, home and away. I'm doing Lithuania next month. And believe me, that's that's the coldest place that I've ever been, to be honest, when we were there 2 years ago. And I'm not really expecting much better there, really.
Yeah, the thing is, CJ, that if you follow England all the time, and I've followed them for years, since the early part of this century, the part of the problem is the way these competitions are structured.
The early part of this century?
Yeah. I said from the earlier part of this century. Do you understand what I'm saying, CJ? The point is that you get good teams or good footballing countries like England, and you get very weak footballing countries like Malta. And it's almost as if the good teams have to sort of pretend that the weak teams are not as weak as they are and show them a bit of respect. And that's why you get these appalling games, because it's not necessary.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. I mean, make no bones about it. I mean, Malta and San Marino, they're the best. They're certainly the best side that are like, the lowest.
Well, the best of a load of bums, you mean?
National football. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, that's not much of an accolade, is it?
That's 100% true, Porky. And like I said, we should be beating them. But to be honest, we should be 4-0 up against them at half time.
Well, exactly. It should be 8-0 now.
I mean, people say, there's no easy games in international football, which is the biggest load of old rubbish I've ever heard in my life, right? And also because England play so many of these terrible teams so often in qualifiers for the European Championships and in qualifiers for the World Cup.
That's right.
They should have a formula. Gareth Southgate, Pep as we like to call him, surely should have a formula for breaking these teams down straight away. Why doesn't he just have, everyone running at the goal in the first 15 minutes to try as hard as they possibly can to score? Instead of they don't need a proper defence. Why would they?
I agree 100%. I was saying throughout that match, you're just looking at it thinking, why aren't we running at their defence?
Yeah.
We ran out of defence. We got, sometimes we were even getting past their last man and we were squaring it. And thinking, why are we doing that? Just run and have a shot. It was happening so many times. There were so many times where put Sterling. He was nutmegging so many people. He ended up nutmegging himself.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think he's an England player. And the thing is, CJ, I admire you in one way for going off to Lithuania and following England around Europe.
But you think I should get a nurse?
Well, no, not necessarily. But I think
that might make it more fun if you travel with a nurse.
I think it's a bit of a hopeless cause now, expecting to go away with England and feel your chest swelling with pride as they trample over the great European nations that we play, because we don't play any great European nations anymore until we get to the finals in Russia next year.
And then you lose to them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So Russell, I admire you in one way, but maybe you've just got an empty and sad life.
I could assure you I haven't got an empty.
That's hard.
Well, that's good.
See, listen, CJ, what do you
got the missus sat here with me as well. She loves it as much.
Oh, well, see, if you travel together, that's nice. Better forget that thing I said about the nurse. Now, what are you going to do for the rest of the night, CJ?
We're going to go and get a bit of, get a few drinks in one of the local bars here.
Yeah.
I'm sure that. Have you ever been to Malta?
I've never. No, we were supposed to come out for it actually, but it didn't work out in the end. What's the local delicacy in terms of food?
The seafood, wasn't it?
Yeah, seafood.
There's a lot of sea around there.
Yeah,
well, it's an island.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's one reason why.
Yeah. Listen, CJ, have a great time. You and Mrs. CJ.
Yeah, well done, CJ. Thank you.
Do you remember Mrs. CJ and that Leonard Rossiter's show? It was CJ and Mrs. CJ, wasn't it?
Was it?
Yeah, Reggie Perrin.
Oh, Reggie Perrin, that's right. CJ, he was the boss.
CJ, but he also referred to his wife as Mrs. CJ.
That's right, yeah, because he was the guy. I didn't get where I am today without,
myself and Mrs. CJ.
That's right, yes.
Anyway, let's have a word with Dan, who's a Man United fan, who's in Basingstoke. Hello, Dan.
Hello, how are we?
Yeah, hi, Dan. Yeah, go on.
What do you make of it all?
Oh, horrendous, isn't it? It is
just awful.
Yeah, awful. I mean, how on earth does Sterling get in that?
I've no idea.
Choice we've got.
No idea. Do you know what? I think Sterling, in a way, does anybody ever look at the way he runs? Because somebody should teach him how to run properly.
They do.
Because he tiptoes.
Exactly,
He tiptoes. He doesn't run. He doesn't stride. He doesn't sprint. His arms are flapping about like he needs oxygen or something like that. And no, honestly, his legs and his feet, he tiptoes like a ballet dancer. He doesn't run.
He's got a very unusual gait.
And that means that he can't get across the ground as quickly as he should. Now then, Dan, have you been a long-time observer of England?
I have indeed, yeah.
What do you think about old Southgate, Gareth Southgate, giving us all the old baloney this week about, I've studied other sporting institutions and the All Blacks.
Centres for excellence.
Yeah, centres of excellence. What's he wasting his time doing that for? That just proves...
put that bloke Chemical Ali in charge.
Chemical Ali, yeah, that only proves one thing, and that one thing is that England managers don't have enough to do. They just simply don't have enough to do.
Exactly. Maybe you should study some football teams in the past, maybe not rugby.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, that would be a bad start, wouldn't it? Maybe you should go to Real Madrid and maybe Bayern Munich, or possibly the German. I mean, apparently it's the anniversary. You were saying the only reason I picked you up earlier, by the way, on you've been watching football for England since the beginning of the century.
And I've been travelling with this England team since the early part of the century.
Yeah. But, I mean, you've been supporting them for longer than that. I mean, that's only 17 years ago.
No, but I started travelling with them really when I got here to TalkSport. Right. I didn't really travel abroad.
But did you know that it's the 16th anniversary of the game against Germany?
Well, I was there.
All right. Well, hang on.
Yeah.
You should know that it's the anniversary. Yeah. Dan, what I was going to say is that was the one night, apparently, when England beat Germany 5-1 at home, that Germany began their whole rebuilding campaign, and now they were the World Cup champions. Now, I don't know what England have to do to get to that kind of level.
Oh, start from scratch, maybe. I mean, maybe Southgate should get on the phone to Sir Alex and get a few pointers.
Yeah, well, I mean...
Henderson and Livermore in midfield. If they are our best midfielders we've got at the moment, we are in serious trouble.
Serious trouble with Livermore, I totally agree. Henderson, yeah, maybe you're right. Why doesn't Southgate, instead of trailing off to see the New Zealanders train, they're rugby players, by the way, so have a different mentality altogether, why doesn't he show them a video of the World Cup final in 1966 when we became the best in the world and say, look, play like that?
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Well, the two videos, you could sit them down for 90 minutes with that video, and then you could sit them down for another 90 minutes straight after for the England, the 5-1.
That's right.
And say, this is how men play football. This is how we play football in England.
Yes.
And then show them 90 minutes of what we've just watched tonight.
Yes.
There's a massive difference, isn't there?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, of course.
And I mean, I can't remember absolutely every minute of that 1966 World Cup final, but my abiding memory is of people like Jeff Hurst running at full tilt
and
towards the goal with the ball.
That's right.
And beating people. Beating people and taking shots. I mean, that's what we don't seem to do at all.
But what I say also, lads, is, Marcus Rashford should have been picked ahead of Sterling.
Who should have?
But
Rashford. Yeah, Rashford.
Yes,
he's a far more exciting player. They looked a lot better when he came on, didn't they?
But also, what has Mark Albrighton got to do to get in this squad? I mean, I prefer Mark Albrighton 10 times out of 10 over Sterling at the moment.
Yeah, well, you may well be right. Sterling was so ineffective.
You'd have to say, to say that Southgate, it would seem, from what we know of him, has his favourites, as a lot of managers do, and he doesn't pick certain players because he obviously doesn't like them.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
Which is weird, isn't it? Listen, Dan, thank you very much indeed. We'd like more people to call in, of course, and they will. Yep. Would you like to give out the non-mangled mouth number?
No, I'll let you do it.
You want me to do
it?
Why is that? You always want to do it.
No, you do it.
Well, you don't know that you've forgotten the number.
Don't be ridiculous. How can I forget
I'll
the
tell you
number?
what, I'll let you do the last bit, OK? I'll do 08717.
Yes.
And you do the next bit.
No, you do the rest. Go on.
22.
Yes.
33.
Yes.
44.
That's it,
You want to write it down?
No, I don't need to write it down. I know it. It's in my head, but I'm not going to suddenly announce it.
Why have you suddenly decided to give up announcing it then?
No. I'm not going to suddenly announce it just because you think it's a good idea. I'll do it when I think it's a good idea, OK?
OK, well, we normally do it before each break, so people get a chance to ring in.
OK, well, we've done
08717 22 33 44. Porky, for some reason, is not wishing to give the number out. I don't know what that's all about.
I am.
Coming up next, though, we will take loads more of your calls, and I will tell you about the sort of disgraceful behaviour we've come to expect from the Porkmeister in the sort of what can only be described as the bladderation stakes of yesterday.
Oh,
this is Talk Sport.
Obviously, they were difficult to break down. First half, we didn't have that many clear-cut chances. We're taking risks when we might not have needed to at times, but you've got to do that to break them down. You've got to take risks, and it's not always going to work. But we knew at half-time, so keep going, keep persevering, like you say, and we'll break them down eventually. And thankfully, we managed to score some good goals in the end.
Jordan Henderson talking to ITV Sport there. I mean, I don't wish to take anything away from the players who have played in that game. However, to say you've got to take risks against a team like Malta... It's ludicrous.
Of course, it's ludicrous.
What do you mean take risks? What's the risk?
Yeah, absolutely.
What, the risk that they're going to score a goal, or the risk that they're going to get the ball?
Yeah,
what's the risk exactly?
Yeah, what risk against the 39th worst team in the world? 190th, something like that. There's great text here. It says, "What is it with the FA? Always hiring nice guy losers. Sven, Southgate, Porky." Well, that's a bit harsh, isn't it? Eh?
Porky, that's true. They did hire you.
Yeah.
How about this one?
I'm not a nice guy.
That's true as well. So he's incorrect on both counts. Dazza says this: the only one thing worse than watching England, and that's listening to the optimistic commentators who are watching a completely different game.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know whether he's referring to the Talk Sport commentators. I don't think they were particularly optimistic.
No.
Here's one from Alex. He says, "Where the hell have you guys been? Watched you getting bladderated in 30 Minutes MG yesterday. Do you only do one show a week now?" Well, no, we don't actually. We're doing tonight's show.
Yeah.
We do Saturday warm-up every single week.
That's right.
We normally do a Sunday night show as well. We're not doing it this weekend because all of next week we are here from 10 until 1 in the morning from Monday to Friday. 10 in the morning until 1 in the afternoon.
Yes, but you said 10 till 1 in the morning, letting people think we finish at 1 in the morning, but we don't.
Well,
we start at 10 a.m.
Once again, you're going to overcomplicate matters.
No, we start at 10 a.m.
and
we finish at 1 p.m. Let's just call it the mid-morning show, OK? That's the one that most people know, all right?
Let's call it that then.
We're doing the mid-morning show.
What? And
I put out an advert for it today.
Did you?
Yes.
When you say I,
yes.
do you not mean the Two Mics put out an advert for it?
No, I put out the advert, actually, and delivered it into the Two Mics channel.
I see.
OK?
Why is it always about you personally?
What do you mean?
Why do you always have to say I?
Well,
you know, you can always tell which
it was my initiative.
Which politicians are guided only by self-interest, and that is when they talk about themselves.
Well,
they never talk about we, the cabinet. They say I have done this, I have done
or
that,
the country,
and it makes them sound incredibly pompous and ridiculous. However, what I would like to explore very shortly, I'm going to take some more calls in a minute.
We certainly are,
but I'm going to explore shortly the state that you got into. Talking of members of the cabinet, before we went to a very, very pricey and expensive do over in Kensington.
Oh, don't be
hosted
ridiculous.
by the former Chancellor of the Exchequer, Mr. George Osborne.
It was actually, yeah.
Who has never seen anybody like you in his life before.
No, that's right.
We'll come back to that.
Indeed.
Let's talk to Ron, who is a Chelsea fan in Basingstoke. Hello, Ron.
Hello, Mike.
Yeah, very good evening. What do you want to say, Ron?
What I'm going to say, this is my opinion. I think we've got two lots of supporters. We've got the supporters that go every weekend to the Premiership matches, and we've got supporters that go to the England matches.
Yeah.
And the people that go to the Premiership matches and that, it's exciting football, sort of end to end, getting off your seat and everything like that. With England, you don't get that. And I think it's down to having all these foreigners in the Premiership. I mean, if you'd have took Willian out of Chelsea tonight and put him on the England stage, he'd have took the ball and gone for it. It had had to go.
Well, exactly.
Break down the defence.
Yeah, no, it's true.
You don't get that at the moment with England.
Yeah, but hang on. Isn't that Gareth Southgate's job, Ron, to teach them how to do that? Because they do it when they're playing in the Premier League, albeit with other players. Surely they can do the same thing and be more attacking-minded when they're playing for England.
Well, they should be, but as you know, England managers only get about a week or 2 weeks with them for training. Well, can they change them from being the Premiership the way they are to the way England want to play? I mean, does Southgate want every player that plays for England to play like their club? And if they do, are they being put in their natural positions?
Well, it seems to me that what he's getting them to do is something which is more alien to them than something that they do every week. I mean, he's changing the way that they play football. He's not changing the way that they play football for England. He's changing the way they play football.
Yeah, but don't you think it's because a lot of these foreigners are playing with the English players?
Well, it could be, Ron. But you see, the problem is, Ron, that Gareth Southgate thinks he's a cerebral manager. You know, he's stroking his beard and, pensively, thinking like with his eyes and that sort of stuff. And the reason he's doing that is he hasn't got any answers to what's going on the pitch. So he invents all this gobbledygook about, visiting, the
Centres
training
of
camps,
excellence.
centres of excellence, looking into the psychology of other sports. We don't care about the psychology of other sports. We care about football.
Yeah.
Get on the football pitch and make things happen.
Well, you would think it wouldn't be difficult. Let's talk to James, a Liverpool fan. James, very good evening to you.
Good evening, Mike. Good evening, Mike.
Yes,
hello,
like
James.
James.
Guys, let's be honest. Is anybody surprised? I sat in the office this afternoon with my colleagues and said, guys, tonight we'll watch the game and 20 minutes in you'll be bored. And I was correct. And it doesn't take anybody with a great deal of intelligence to know. In my view, it starts with the manager. Why he got the job, I still don't understand.
Well, it was politics.
Yes, spot on, Mike.
Yeah.
But, I mean, at the end of the day, it's the manager who does it. And you're right on, Mike, with this looking at other sports and doing psychology and all looking intelligent. I mean, at the end of the day, we just want an England team that plays football. I mean, 16 years ago tonight, we won in Germany, won 5-1.
5-1.
And we thought we were on the cusp of a whole new beginning.
With Sven,
and
we did.
Correct. I mean, Sven's derided, but he got us to a couple of quarter-finals within a couple.
He got us to a quarter-final every time.
Well, he also got England to play that kind of football, James, which is, at the very least was exciting to watch. I think most people would rather England sort of, went out in a blaze of glory playing decent football than this awful stuff that they do now.
Oh, goodness. I mean, and that's what worries me. We'll get through to the World Cup. We'll play the first rounds of games. I think there's three games in the first round. And we'll probably not qualify for the last 16.
Yeah.
We just know now, 12 months ahead of what's going to happen. Now, I don't want to sound negative, but we can meet. And then Southgate will probably be given another contract. Well, we'll give him another chance in the Euros in 2020. And we just keep going round and round in circles.
Yeah, totally agree.
We need a whole change of emphasis and ethos, at the FA downwards.
Yes, no, it's absolutely right.
Exactly right. And that's what St George's Park is supposed to be providing.
Exactly.
But what it's doing is doing exactly what you and I both know every committee of people always does.
That's right.
It sort of planes off everything interesting, and all you get left with is a boring hunk of rubbish right in the middle.
Well, what you do is you put a guy in there who's not going to cause you any problems. I mean, the point is, if England football wants to get really serious, it's no good having this brilliant idea that, former chief executives had to hire a foreign manager, like Sven-Göran Eriksson. You actually need to hire a foreign chief executive to make the decision on the manager.
Yeah, maybe.
So you've got a whole new thinking pattern of how it's done.
Yeah.
If the Germans can do it, why can't we?
Go after the best people in football and get them to make the decisions and get them to hire the personnel to make England an interesting team to watch. James, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, James.
We're going to take more of your calls coming up, of course. Would you like to give the number out now?
Of course I will. It'll be the non-mangle-mouthed version of the number, and it is 08717 22 33 44. Call us now. Get on the phone and tell us what you think the solution is to this desperate boredom we suffer every time we watch England.
Yeah. Jane says this. Oh, Porky seems a tad cantankerous this evening. That's a good word, isn't it?
Cantankerous?
Yeah, cantankerous. Is he hungover? He's one from Blaze. He says, Porky's angry at being invited to read out the station's phone number. He says, I will read it out when I want to.
Yes.
Does he think he's 6 or 7?
I'm not going to answer silly questions like that.
And Ryan says, 66 and the 5-0 against Germany. This is how we play football in England. The fact that there's only 2 examples would suggest otherwise. And that's very true. Because unfortunately, what we saw tonight is very much what we normally see when England England play football.
Yes.
Which is why I was saying surely Pep Southgate should have some kind of way of making it easier to break these teams down and at least entertain people. His job is to entertain people.
His job is to entertain.
You know?
I wish we could get back to that night in Germany. I was there in Munich with Alvin Martin.
Yes.
And we sat up all night, drank champagne in the hotel.
Right.
Yeah, we had a huge bar bill for champagne.
Who paid that?
TalkSport.
Did they?
And we invited a few England fans in to join us. It was a night of great celebration. And how I would love to have a night like that again.
Yes.
After watching an England match.
What are the chances of that happening?
Well, at the moment, remote.
Zero.
Remote.
Very, very remote indeed. This is TalkSport with the two mics.
Yes.
It's a wonderful night, you gotta take it from me. It's a wonderful night, come on and break it on down. It's a wonderful night, you gotta shake it from me. It's a wonderful night, come on and break it on down. It's a wonderful
This is TalkSport. We are the two mics. We've got loads coming up. Of course, we're going to be going over to Houston a little bit later on to find out what the flooding problems are there. Obviously, it's been a terrible week, and we'll be getting on-the-spot reports from that part of the world. Also, we're going to got PorkyVision, a bonus PorkyVision coming up a little bit later on. Find out what Paul's been watching on TV. Loads more calls to take as well. 08717 22 3344. Donovan says this on the Twitter. Southgate, in my opinion, has made England harder to watch than the Hodgson era. Please start being positive going forward. That's pretty damning, isn't it, to say it's worse than Hodgson, because he was awful.
Well, I'd like a manager who actually, and I think Sam Allardyce was in this mould, who actually addresses the problem of can I make 11 players pull together and play without going into a load of wishy-washy drivel, about, existentialism being important to the thinking of a footballer and investigating, the motivational methods of other sports around the world and getting into the minds of winning sporting operations.
Yeah.
It's all gobbledygook. It doesn't matter.
Yes.
It doesn't matter,
Now,
Mr. Southgate. And stop giving us the pensive look, the frown on the touchline, like you can't understand why things aren't working. They're not working because you haven't properly directed the squad of players into what you want them to do.
When I was watching the game, right, in the first half, there was a moment when there was an injury to one of the Maltese players, and Pep called about three of the England players over, and he was talking to them as if they were in a World Cup final. They all had these terribly sort of, pensive looks on their faces.
That's right.
Very, very serious conversation
going
on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're playing Malta,
That's
man.
right. Relax and get on with it.
Enjoy it. Have a good time. Let's talk to Tom, who's a Celtic fan, because Scotland fans this evening are very, very happy because Gordon Strachan, who has been roundly criticised by a lot of Scotland fans, managed to get a great win over Lithuania.
He did.
Tom, a very good evening to you.
Hello there, Mike.
Hello. What would you like to say? Well done to Scotland, by the way.
Well done. A great result.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Thanks a very lot. Thanks a lot. I'd like to a few points I'd like to mention out about Scotland tonight.
Yes.
Was against England, the last game, it was Jason Cundy and Clive Allen I was speaking to, and Clive Allen actually says that he could guarantee me Scotland are out in the big World Cup competition. Look, let's forget about what you said. It was basically to talk about Scotland. Gordon Strachan tried to get Scotland to play the possession passing game tonight.
Right.
And I thought for the first maybe 35 minutes of the first half, they really did that. I thought they were good, Scotland.
I mean, the trouble with Scotland, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, Tom, and I've been watching Scotland since I was a little boy, is whenever you think they're going to play very well, they don't. And whenever you don't think they're going to play well, they do.
Yeah, you're spot on, Mike. You're spot on with that. But again, tonight, that would have been a hurdle that we could have maybe lost if we were waiting on that to get through, sort of thing.
So are you hopeful now that they can get close? Can they get to second?
Well, if we get to second, get a playoff, as long as we keep improving. I think that's the thing. There's been a lot of people slating Gordon Strachan this, Gordon Strachan that. The man can only pick for what he's got. You know what I mean? We're a very small country.
But if you compare what he's done to Gareth Southgate, he's done miracles, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. Because, Tom, you've got to remember, you're absolutely right. You've got a very small pool of talent to pick from, whereas England have got one of the biggest pools of talent in the world. And what brings Scotland victories now is not the quality of the talent of the players, it's their attitude to pulling together and playing against an opposition. And you seem to know how to do that recently in the last two games better than we do.
Yeah, spot on, Mike, spot on. I think it's the heart and the commitment.
Yeah. No, I'm sure there's a lot of that in it, yeah.
I think there's definitely some truth to that, Tom. Thanks very much indeed. Let's talk to Brian, who's a Leicester fan. Brian, very good evening to you.
Hello, good evening. I don't know if you remember a few months ago I applied for the England manager's job.
Did you?
You asked me to read the letter out.
Oh, yes, I do remember that, yes.
I thought Mr. Parry was very harsh, saying that it was the longest letter of rejection he'd ever heard.
Yes, that's right, yes.
I thought it was very harsh.
Are you thinking of...
After watching tonight...
Yeah, you're going to resubmit it?
Yeah, exactly. Southgate is absolute garbage. There's no arguments about it. He's a wimp. He's a yes man. And the team he put out tonight, the way he played it, against a team like Malta, or bankers, post office, builders, or whatever they are.
Yeah. A couple of them play for Grays Athletic, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So you play three at the back, 4 in midfield, and 3 up front. If it started with Vardy, Kane, and Rashid at the start, would have been 3 or 4 up at half time.
Sure.
But no, he played the dangerous game, safety. I don't want to lose.
The thing I don't get, Brian, is why does anybody think that Gareth Southgate can organise a winning national side when he's got such a poor track record as a manager of any substantial team, like, for instance, Middlesbrough? Okay, he had a bit of success with some of the junior England teams, but, the Chelsea juniors have won the FA Youth Cup 6 times out of the last 8 years, but it's not working with junior teams, it's not working with the top professionals.
No, it's not. That's absolutely right. We've got to move on because we've got loads of people to talk to. Tim is a Chelsea fan. He thinks that we should be more positive. I don't know why he thinks that, but he's in Austin, Texas. Hello, Tim.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, very good.
Why do you think we should be more positive, Tim?
Well, so I've been listening to Talk Sport for probably as long as there's been an app, right? I listen to it on my phone. Really appreciate all you guys do. You guys in particular are funny, the way you insult each other and talk over each other.
I don't know what you mean.
I get a big kick out of that. But what I'm struck by is this incessant, almost genetic, or is it rehearsed, self-loathing that comes with regard to the English people and their squad.
Well, it's partly because they're no good, though, Tim. That's mainly the problem.
No, that's not exactly true. They're pretty good, and I don't know if it's the ghost of 1966 that sort of just kind of hovers over everything there, but they're pretty good. I watched the match. It was a bit turgid.
A bit turgid?
I don't know. Yeah, turgid.
I mean, I'd rather watch the USA. I'd rather watch the USA play. They're at least a bit more exciting.
Well, stay up a couple more hours and you can. But I'm just saying, it's not as bad as you guys make it out to be.
No, but you don't understand. You don't understand, Tim. We have to have a sense of self-belief, and that sense of self-belief has been missing for years.
Why is that? It's because you guys are on the radio being, to use your own words, Richard heads to your own team.
So you think it's our fault? So you think it's our fault, Tim? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Did you watch the World Cup in Brazil?
Yeah,
England went to Brazil, right? They didn't win a game.
Yeah.
After 2 games, they were out of the tournament.
And more recently, the European Championships, it was a debacle, hopeless, beaten by Iceland. I mean, what's all that about?
Oh, debacle.
Yeah, Tim, I think you've been drinking too much of that hooch over there, man.
Yeah.
but thank you very much indeed for your call.
Yes, thank you.
Tim from Texas telling us we need to be more positive.
Yeah,
more
Texas
positive.
Tim says, you guys, talking about Richard heads.
Yeah, what's up with you?
Yeah.
This is TalkSport. Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics, winners and losers, coming up very, very shortly in the next hour, of course. We'll be talking about what's going on the back pages and the front pages too. An awful lot of it about Wayne Rooney.
Yeah.
Some rather interesting developments, which we'll bring you as soon as we have the papers in front of us. Mark says this: England are a third-rate country in terms of international football. What's wrong with a 4-0 win? What else can they do? Well, I mean, you might say that it's a 4-0 win, and I said this to you, Mike, at the end of the game.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of masks the game itself, because a 4-0 win on paper to Gareth Southgate sounds great, doesn't it?
Yeah.
4-0 sounds like a fantastic
what happened was...
But it wasn't that kind of game.
As one of our correspondents has said, and I'm sorry I can't find it now, but he said, look, once England breached the dam, then Malta came out to try and equalise, and that opened the game up, and they scored another 3, you know.
But they got the 2 right near the end, 2 in 2 minutes. Otherwise, it was really a 2, it was not a 4-0 game.
Yes.
They didn't, I mean, probably if the game had gone on another 10 minutes, it might have been 6-0.
Yeah.
But it's the way that they play, which
That's
I think
right.
people people find so depressing.
Right.
Let's talk to Stan.
Have you, by the way, raised the Porky jinx yet tonight on the show? Because Chris here, for instance, he sums it up. He says, MG, you've got to remind Porky of his Rooney and Wilshere words last week. This is the best Porky jinx ever.
Well, it's
true. And, of course, he's relating to the Wayne Rooney situation.
I believe your very words were, when we were talking about the conduct of Jack Wilshere and how he gets himself into a lot of trouble off the field, that Wayne Rooney has never done anything like that. And I'm afraid it would now appear to be the opposite.
I said that it was a year since he had, and I referred back to his days as a callow youth, when he was not being, directed properly and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm afraid that the papers are going to be merciless to him tomorrow.
Yeah.
Not only are they going to relate the incident that's led to him spending a night in the police cell and now got to appear in court later on in this month.
The circumstances don't look good.
Well, the circumstances don't look good, but not only that, that's his private life. That's up to him. He's got to sort that out with Colleen, who's away on holiday.
Yeah.
But it's the effect it now has on his reputation at Everton and his standing at the club. He was brought in there to be, this figure on the top of the hill, telling all the young lads who want to aspire to be England's record goal scorer,
a role model.
This is the way you behave yourself.
A role model.
And that's gone desperately wrong.
And lots of people, of course, will say, footballers should never be role models. But, in Everton's case, Ronald Koeman wanted him to be exactly that.
He said it's great to have him around the dressing room. Calvert-Lewin, by the way, young lad who's just played his first under-21 game for England, Everton player and striker, who scored tonight, must look at Rooney and think, I want to be one of you. I want to be you one day.
Yeah. Well, we'll get more into that a little bit later on in the show. Let's talk to Stan, meanwhile, who's an Arsenal fan, about England. Stan, very good evening to you.
Hi, Mike. And Mike, great show.
Thank you. What would you like to say?
I'm still trying to work out how Carl Walker is worth £54 million.
Well, you might want to try and work out how Sterling is worth £49.8 million.
Man City seem to have a penchant to spend this sort of money. It's where Stone's gone. He's another £50 million.
Yeah, that's right. Not even in the England squad.
Yeah.
You can see why they were desperately needed Sanchez.
Yeah.
I just think Gareth Southgate should be sacked as soon as the team was announced, when we saw Livermore in the team and no Rashford.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree with that.
He should have got his P45 round about quarter past 7.
Yeah.
No, and what I was saying as well, Stan, earlier, is that, England play so many of these teams that we hear are, 8 men behind the ball. You'd think that they'd be good at breaking them down rather than finding it difficult as if they'd never played anybody like this before.
No, it's not difficult. You're playing Malta. It's difficult when you play Germany. You've got to forget that mindset. You can't beat. I mean, didn't Belgium win 8-0 last night? Who did they play?
I don't know.
No idea.
They won 9 or 8-0.
Gibraltar, I'm told.
Yes,
Roberto
Gibraltar.
Martinez.
They're probably a smidge worse than Malta. The fact of the matter is, Scotland even won 3-0. We've got to get rid of this Southgate chap.
Yeah. Well, Scotland had a better result against Malta, I think, didn't they? They beat them 5-1, didn't they?
I think they
did.
And
I just think the England fans take some responsibility. They shouldn't turn up in numbers on Monday. Maybe not turn up Monday. Get rid of Southgate. Let's get someone with a bit of clout, not a yes man, and hopefully we can make some strides forward, because we don't want to go to the World Cup next year with Southgate.
Maybe we should offer Arsene Wenger the job, Stan.
Well, I don't think he could do worse. I think he needs a new challenge.
Well, he certainly needs something, doesn't he?
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. We do not want to go into a World Cup with Gareth Southgate for all the reasons you've outlined, Stan, but plus the fact that he's naive in the extreme, plus the fact he's never had any experience, and plus the fact that if we have got decent players in the England squad, and I say Harry Kane is one of them, how can they respect Gareth Southgate for his track record as a manager?
Mike, but Southgate has got experience as a manager, and it was failure. I think didn't Borough get relegated with him?
Borough did, yeah.
He has got experience, and it's bad experience.
Yeah.
I can't see anything changing. We have to get rid of the man. Nice chap that he is, good pundit.
Yeah.
Let's go and get someone left field, someone that's going to shake.
Have you got any thoughts on who it could be, Stan?
I think Arsene Wenger.
Well, I put that idea into your head.
I would still give it to Harry Redknapp.
He's nicked my
idea. For the World Cup next year in Russia, I would still give it to Harry Redknapp, who could do a job with any football team.
Possible.
Even at this, even at his age
Let's see how he does with Birmingham first.
Yes, yeah, maybe. He'll do well with Birmingham.
Yeah, let's talk to Pat, who's a Nottingham Forest fan.
Yes.
Pat, a very good evening to you. Hello, Pat.
Hi, Pat.
Pat's not there. Let's try Justin, who's a Liverpool fan. Justin.
Hello, Mike.
Yeah, hi, Justin. What would you like to say?
Well, basically, honestly, at the end of the day, I don't understand why all these people keep phoning up and saying about the structure of the team, etc. We just basically haven't got anyone world class.
Yeah, well, maybe not, but we've got some very decent players.
Hang on, Harry Kane is world class, isn't he?
Well, he's got a very decent player.
He's not world class. He's not world class, Harry Kane. He's a good player, but he's not world class.
I disagree with you there. I think Harry Kane has scored an awful lot of goals for England in an awful lot of games.
I think he can be world class, but I think he's just a very decent player at the moment. He may well develop into world class. But you're absolutely right. But then again, Justin, we haven't got bad players. We've got good players. So we should be able to produce good performances, which are, attractive to the eye, aesthetic, scintillating even. And we don't do that.
We don't. And at the end of the day, 0-0 at the first half. To be honest with you, people must have been laughing at England thinking, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. When you got to half-time and you saw old Gareth not able to look even, his own coach in the eye, you thought, crikey, something's gone terribly wrong here.
It really is awful. Justin, it's not a great line, so I'm going to let you go. But let's see. Mark says this. Oh, sorry, I've already done that one. Hooded Kojak says this. Is that American dude okay? He's worried about him because he said that, he's blaming the British media. It seems to be ridiculous. Phil says, at the end of the day, we still won 4-0. I'd rather have the points than the performance. Yeah, but Phil, the problem is that once England get to Russia for the finals of the World Cup, one, because of the way that we have this ridiculous qualification system, they won't have played anybody decent.
No, that's
so they won't have had any practice.
No, they won't.
They won't. I think until tonight, I'm right in saying, am I not, that under Southgate, England hadn't actually scored a goal away from home until tonight.
Yeah, you could well be right.
Which they've now done.
Paul says here, don't forget the Scotland game. He says, are we progressing every game? We nearly lost to Scotland. And we did. It was a last-minute situation that rescued us.
2-2, wasn't it?
And we've now won a massive 3 points away in Malta. In Gareth, we must trust. I think that's a very sarcastic reference to the abilities of the England manager.
Yeah. Daniel says, the impact of the Premier League has affected England and a lot of fans would prefer club results over how England does. And I think that's true. And here's one from Steptoe who is having a go at you. He says, you just know if Porky bumped into Southgate at some function, he would tell him he's doing a great job.
No, I wouldn't,
Hashtag
honestly.
Crawler.
No, I wouldn't.
Wouldn't
honestly.
you?
No, of course I wouldn't. You've got to be honest to your beliefs, haven't you?
Well, let's say if you bumped into George Osborne, what would you tell him?
George Osborne. I did actually nearly bump into Mr. Osborne last night.
Well, I still haven't got around to telling the story.
I didn't realise he was there.
Well, let me tell briefly what happened.
Yes.
We were, as people will know, performing a live broadcast.
We were.
From a secret location in Covent Garden yesterday.
That's right, yes.
We then had to move over to a very exclusive sort of do over in Kensington.
It's a very posh
place. Very nice hotel. I drank champagne the entire time I was there.
I didn't. I drank white wine.
Yeah, well,
I'm
surprised you had any room to put any more wine.
Well, that's a bit harsh.
You absolutely were a disgrace to your profession.
No, I wasn't.
A disgrace to the two mics. A disgrace to all kind of common journalism. But I'll tell everybody how you managed to do that coming up in the next hour.
Oh.
This is TalkSport.
Right.
Two mics. This is, of course, TalkSport. We'll take more of your calls a little bit later on. We'll also be talking winners and losers. We've revamped that competition, and you get to vote in it as well, which is very, very good. We'll have a Twitter poll up and running very shortly. But that, of course, is Night Fever by the Bee Gees, Mr. Parry.
Yeah.
Somebody's birthday, I understand.
Barry Gibbs, 71 today.
Is that right?
How about that?
Yeah. Well, I saw him at Glastonbury again, because the previous year I think he'd been invited by Coldplay to come up and play with them. And he loved it so much that he went back and played a set at Glastonbury, and he was brilliant. He really got into it and really liked it a lot.
Gloria Estefan, do you know her?
Gloria Estefan, yeah, the Miami Sound Machine.
Yeah, she's 60 today.
Is she?
That's not bad, is it?
I thought she was older than that, to be honest.
So did I, but I think she looks very good for 60.
Why are we not playing any Gloria Estefan?
Well, we might do that a bit later in the show. But, I mean, Barry Gibb, of course, because he's a legend, probably the greatest ever member of the greatest ever disco group. Would you not agree?
Well, I don't know, really.
Well, disco was all about the Bee Gees and that other bloke who had... what was the name of that group he had?
I don't know.
The bloke with the plaits in his hair. What was his name? He was a great guy. Niall Rodgers.
Niall Rodgers.
Is it Niall?
It's not Lyle.
Niall. I said Niall.
Niall Rodgers.
Yeah, Niall.
From Chic.
Chic, that's the one, Chic, the group, Chic, Niall Rodgers.
He was a great producer as well.
And he was a great producer. He wrote songs like...
The Freak.
Freak Out.
It was called Le Freak.
Was it? Oh, yeah. Yeah, do you know where that came
chic.
from? Do you know where that came from?
Where?
Well, he met...
That's the Studio 54 story, isn't it?
That's the Studio 54 story. He met that woman with the flat head who was... You know, who was in...
The woman with the flat head?
Yeah, she was in the James Bond film. She jumped off the Empire...
You mean Grace Jones?
Grace Jones, yeah, she jumped off the Eiffel Tower.
I went to a restaurant once.
No, did you? Yeah, okay.
I had to review it for the Sunday Times.
Oh, in New York, in New York, yeah, right.
Made a very nice warm lobster salad.
Oh, okay.
But unfortunately, the restaurant didn't last very long because she kept inviting all her friends there.
Yeah, and
they never
didn't
paid.
No, that's right.
So the place went under in about 6 months.
Happens all the time. But he met her somewhere in some recording studio, and she said, I'm doing Studio 54 next week. Come down. And they go down. They knock on the door on Nile Rodgers, and peephole opens. Yeah, what do you want?
Yeah.
We are personal guests of your star performer tonight, Miss Grace Jones.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, sure you are, buddy. So are 1,000 other people. Get lost. And
so
we went back to their apartment, which was only a few blocks away, and they wrote Freak Out. But the words freak out were originally a word beginning with F, which you cannot say on a family show.
No, of course not.
And the second word was not out, but off. And,
I see.
And then they took it into the studio and they decided to change it to Freak Out so they could actually release it as a record.
Oh, well, there we are.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think certainly the Bee Gees would be associated with disco, but a lot of other kind of music as well.
Yes.
But they just kind of revived the disco business with the soundtrack to Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah.
All thanks to Robert Stigwood.
Yeah.
Who, of course, had revived their careers.
That's right.
Now, a couple of quick readouts for you here.
Okay.
One from Kelvin, who says, "Hi, chaps, love the show. Can Mark North have a shout-out? He was 40 last week."
Mark North?
Mark North, yeah. And a Kirsty, what's your problem?
Yeah, okay. Well, Mark North,
What's
40
Kirsty,
last week.
what's your problem?
I don't know.
I don't know what that is.
I don't know. Is that does that relate to somebody called Kirsty?
I've no idea.
Mark North, 40 today.
Yeah.
Sorry, mate. After this, it all goes south. That's quite funny,
Very
isn't it?
good, yeah.
Yeah.
Mustafa says, can I get a shout-out? I turned 32 yesterday.
Yeah, did you?
No, is Mustafa the guy that was the one responsible for sending you all those
could well
Beatles
be.
albums?
He could well be. And if that's the case, Mustafa, very happy birthday. Thank you very much, mate. You have made a great contribution to my life.
I see.
Well done.
Have you managed to play any of those yet, by the way?
I don't reveal too much about them because they are very valuable pieces of equipment, and I am most grateful for them. Now, I've got some bad news for you.
Have you?
Because, yesterday I was baiting you a little bit on our Facebook live stream.
Were you?
That,
I didn't notice you were baiting me any more than you normally do.
Well, that you were putting £1 or £2 on, and you admitted
you were saying that I'd put a load of weight on and you'd taken a load of weight off.
Well, I've certainly taken a load of weight off because I've got
You
this
still look a
special
bit
diet.
fat to me.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I don't to other people.
Really? No, they think that you've lost weight, which you have, but you're hardly sylph-like, are you?
My mother...
You don't look like Kate Moss or anything.
My mother, who I spoke to this week, said she thinks I've never looked better.
Really?
Yeah, I look sharper.
How's her eyesight?
She loved my my dark
eyesight?
suit on Sky on Monday. She said my shirt was immaculate. She said my hair was coiffured properly. And I'd clearly lost a few pounds. I was in great shape. You, on the other hand, have put weight on, and I'm not blaming you for that. You're giving up smoking. It's often a consequence of it. However...
I think I've actually lost a little bit since I went on holiday.
Okay, well, that's good, because...
Which is good.
If you apply yourself to the sociological consequences of putting on weight, as I do, because I study my sociological journals, you will probably get fired if you put much more weight on. Fat people get fired.
Fired?
Yes,
seriously. Did you get fired for being fat?
I've never
Because you put on massive amounts of weight before you went into hospital, didn't you?
Yeah, but that's because
you were retaining about 55 gallons of water.
I was, but that's because I had acute heart failure.
Yeah. Well, didn't you think you might have had acute heart failure because you put on so much weight?
No,
you think one of the two things were related?
No, I had acute heart failure because my heart stopped working.
See, people think it's rather ludicrous and two-faced of you and hypocritical to take the mickey out of anything to do with my health, given that you have been so close to death on so many different occasions.
Well,
and you've got about as much chance of outliving me as you've got of winning the lottery. Yeah.
Well, I would say I have. Anyway, listen, what happens here is I've read in my sociological journals plenty of examples. A woman who sat behind a desk, as the face of her company that she worked for. When she went to the boss and said, "Look, I'm awfully sorry, but I can't get into the size 14 uniform that we wear," and that's the biggest we've got.
What sort of uniform was it?
Well, some sort of uniform to indicate...
Well, I mean, like she was an air stewardess or something?
No. She sat in at the desk at the front of the entrance hall to the building. Like a receptionist.
I see,
yeah.
Right.
And she went to her boss and said, "I'm sorry, I must have put a bit of weight on. I can't get into the size 14, which is the maximum size we've got. Could we order one for me for 16, please, or even possibly 18?"
Yeah.
and they gave her a notice a couple of days later.
I'm sure that she would have a legal claim against them for that.
They never said that it was because of your weight or something like that. They said it was a rationalisation programme and that sort of thing. But it says it says here that the more weight, because I'm weighing up this sociological report, the more weight you put on, the more chance you've got of going down the pay scale in your profession and down the elevator.
Tell that to Mike Ashley.
Of respectability.
Tell that to Mike Ashley.
The elevator, but he runs his own business.
That's what I mean.
The elevator of respectability within your own company. Okay.
I see. Yes.
Yeah.
So is this a warning to everybody in general, or just to me?
It's a warning to everybody in general.
Yeah.
A report here, within 12 months of losing weight, as another case study, I'd gone from managing 6 people to managing 100 people. I was in front of the more senior board members, whereas I didn't have access to them before. It was the lift in my career, losing 4 stone.
Oh, yeah.
How about that?
Well, I think there's no doubt that people who get very, very, very heavy are possibly less likely to be as successful inside a company.
Yep.
But I think there's quite a big bandwidth, if you like, of people who can put on a fair amount of weight and nobody cares.
It says in this sociological report, which I've studied, people who put weight on don't give any thought to it until they suddenly find that their position has changed for the worse.
Yeah.
She says...
Sounds like a gross generalisation.
No. For instance, you can't be put in front of customers if you're overweight and aesthetically not as attractive as somebody who's not overweight.
No, but you say that, but actually there would be laws, or employment laws, protecting you from being put in that situation. So I think you can get away. You can't get away with firing people just because they put on weight.
Heavy people are less likely to be hired for a job. In a 2016 study led by the famous psychologist Stuart W. Flint.
Never heard of him.
Of Sheffield Hallam University.
Oh, yeah, he's famous, isn't he?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Participants were asked to evaluate candidates for different types of jobs, shown hypothetical CVs with photographs depicting fat and thin people. The participants perceived men and women of average weight to be the most suitable for employment, but obese women were the least likely to be hired. Obese men followed very shortly afterwards. The researchers concluded...
Yeah, you say the time, by the way.
Hey, this is very important. I'm trying to save your career.
I've been saving your career for about 3 years.
The researchers concluded that stereotypes of obese people being less physically capable and slothful were likely to have played a role in this outcome.
Marvellous.
Okay?
Thank you very much indeed.
So you take the warning. I'm trying to help you.
Yeah, I know you're trying to help me, but
fatso.
as usual, you're incapable of helping anyone but yourself because you're so single-mindedly selfish and brutish.
No, I just look after myself to an extent that you don't know about.
You have no idea how untrue that is. You look after yourself, you've been nearly dead on a slab about 4 times in your life.
You can't complete this story about my, you're trying to tell people that I behaved improperly
disgracefully last night,
and yet you can't get around to telling the story because you know it's not true.
Well, I know it is true.
It's completely untrue.
I'm going to tell the story coming up very shortly.
Oh, and how many complaints have you had?
I've had a lot of complaints.
Rubbish.
Last night I had loads of people come up to me saying, why the hell did you bring that idiot with you?
Oh, rubbish.
This is Talk Sport.
Nonsense.
By popular demand, we have revamped winners and losers. It's a great competition. It one which involves the public vote.
That's right.
Which we had to suspend for a while because of various gerrymandering situations that went on. However, it is now back, and we are about to put out a poll once we've finished talking.
We are.
On Twitter, at the 2 mics, of course. So just look for it there and go and vote. What we'll do is we'll keep the poll open for an hour.
We will.
As we did last time.
Yes.
You somehow managed to get a late surge.
I did.
Last week. So you're currently in the lead by 2-1.
That's right.
Because it's very early in the season, of course. So if you would like to go early first with your winners, with your losers, that would be what to do next.
Okay.
Would you like to go with your first one?
I'll go with my first loser.
Okay.
First loser has to be Ross Barkley. I'm sorry, but I mean, this guy goes all the way to London. He apparently takes a medical. He's all set to sign on. He's discussed details for a move to Chelsea, and then at the last minute he pulls out and says he doesn't want to go. Now, I'm sorry, but the reason I brand him a loser is that he is sort of self-destructing his own career and his own life.
It's not very clear why he's done it, is it?
No, but it's bad enough to want out of Everton and make it so public that he falls out with Mr. Koeman. Perhaps Mr. Koeman didn't fancy him and made that clear, and that's why he's gone. I don't want to be unfair to Ross if he's moving because he feels he has no future at Everton, but then to have have an agent or a manager, or whatever you want to call him, who mishandles things so badly, not accusing the agent of being responsible for the failed deal at Chelsea, but, this boy needs direction, and he needs to be told that to get your career back on track, you've got to have a club to play for, and at the moment, you're in a vacuum, and you're in no man's land, and I'm afraid Ross Barkley from that has emerged as a shocking loser.
Yes, indeed. And I'm going to stick with Everton, I'm afraid, with my first loser, because it's going to have to be Wayne Rooney.
Well, yeah.
Wayne Rooney's not only on the back pages, in which it said that Ronald Koeman is going to be very unhappy with him, because you said earlier he has, in fact, been hired by Everton, in part, to be a role model to some of the younger players. And this kind of behaviour that he seems to have been involved in yesterday is not exactly the sort of thing they would have expected. He's on the front page of the Daily Mail, a picture of him looking as if he's being driven away from the police station. The headline says, "So, Wayne, how did you tell Colleen about the brunette and the drink-drive charge?" The Sun has also got a front-page story in which they're talking to the girl concerned who was in the car that he was driving. And the Daily Mirror have also got all over the front page. So why was Rue taking a woman home while pregnant Colleen's away on holiday? She supposedly is now flying back to speak to him about it. But the Sun's headline says, "My mad hours with drink-drive Wayne. 10 hours on fizz and vodka. Rue drove her old VW. Angry Colleen flies home." They've got a picture of the woman in question. So you'd have to say it's pretty loser-like behaviour, really, from Wayne Rooney.
Can you imagine the copper who stopped him? You know, so this beaten-up old Volkswagen Beetle. You know, I better find out who's driving this erratically or
he
whatever.
Must have been a bit surprised.
Allegedly.
Right.
And suddenly the window winds down, and you're staring at the face of the most famous footballer in Britain. Right, my second. No, I'll go for a winner now. Okay.
No, you can't. You've got to do losers.
Oh, got to
first.
losers. All right, right.
Stick with those.
Okay. My second loser, right? This is a bit off beam here, but I'm diverting from football.
Yes.
It doesn't all have to be sports people.
Doesn't have to be,
right?
no.
My second loser is Katie Price.
Oh, yeah.
She's got a nationwide tour, a night with Katie Price.
Oh, yeah.
And according to the latest report I've seen, because we keep an eye on these sort of things, considering we've got a show that's selling very well, I should say, a Christmas show in London.
Shepherd's Bush Empire.
We were astonished, weren't we, that nearly a third of the tickets have already gone.
Yeah.
And we're only in... that was
only after 2 days.
That was in August, So I keep an eye on these things, and in the... I think there's 10 venues she's going to.
Yeah.
According to the report I've read, she hasn't sold more than 20% of tickets, any of them, and this is going to be a hard old slog to get the rest.
That's not good, is it?
I've seen this happen before. I think Bob Geldof had to cancel some dates because he couldn't be certain that he was going to get enough people buying tickets to make it work. And it's happened again now with Katie Price, who I have to say, to me, is a bit of a music hall joke. But she's a very successful woman. She's a wealthy woman. She normally gets things right. But on this occasion, I'm afraid she's overstretched herself. She's a loser.
Well, I mean, that's a bit harsh on her, but I can see where you're coming from. My next one is still going to stick with football. It's going to be Alexis Sanchez.
Right.
Alexis Sanchez desperately wanted to leave Arsenal in the transfer window, which has just closed.
Yes.
We're now being told Manchester City may come back for him in January, where they will be able to get their hands on him for slightly less money, I guess.
Yes.
Because he's out of contract at the end of the season. To make matters worse, Chile, where he's currently playing international football, lost a game 3-0.
Right.
So to compound his misery, he's not even getting any joy out of his international career at the moment.
Because they were doing well in that South American
group.
They
were. And I mean, I don't think that means it's all over for him, but it's certainly not good news for him. And the fact is that, he's clearly quite a sort of emotional player.
Yes.
And I'm not suggesting for a minute that he won't give his all for Arsenal, because he tends to. But I mean, it's just going to be more trouble for him playing for a team that he doesn't want to play for, playing with players who clearly don't want to play for the team either.
Exactly.
And it's just a nightmare scenario for him, really.
Indeed.
So that's my second loser. You've got one more to go.
No, I haven't. I've given you my two.
No, you do three.
No, we don't.
We
two.
Do. No, two is we do heroes and villains. We do two of each.
Okay.
Winners and losers, we do three of each.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Three of each.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Do you want me to do my third one?
No. I've got them all here. I know what I'm talking about, man.
And I think you've prepared very well for this.
I have prepared very well indeed. And my third one is Gareth Southgate.
Gareth Southgate?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Because he won 4-0?
No, not because he won 4-0, but because if you measure him by the response from our audience tonight and the phone-in after the show, he is a loser.
Okay.
Not one single TalkSport listener came on and defended Gareth Southgate. They all said, and telling
apart from that mad American guy.
Yeah, the mad American guy, Yeah, well, he's a mad American. Not one of them said anything favourable about him, and they all made the point, well, until England scored, I mean, Malta were holding their own. It was only because then Malta tried to sort of fight back that it opened up, and England then finally cracked it, but it was a poor display.
Yes.
So Gareth Southgate's my third loser.
OK, my final loser is Cycling Weekly.
Right.
I know that you get a lot of journals in your house. I don't know whether you get Cycling Weekly.
Yes.
But they've had to apologise, right, because they put out the latest edition of their magazine, in which the caption, you know how sometimes people who are a bit daft in publishing put in sort of, a fake caption.
Yes, that's
and then
right.
you're supposed to fill it in with whatever the real caption should be.
Yes.
They did a picture of a rather attractive-looking female cyclist in which they put underneath in the caption, token attractive woman.
Right.
And didn't change it, and it went out like that.
Not
and
good.
they've had to apologise, and loads of people, because cyclists, of course, being sort of fairly left-leaning types, have basically said, we're never going to buy it again. These people are an absolutely appalling crowd.
Shocking.
Now, we've only got 1 minute left. We're going to have to rush through
the
winners.
Right,
Let's have the
music.
winners.
Everyone's a winner, baby, that's the truth. This is true. Making love to you is such a thrill.
Why don't you just do all three at once?
OK, I'll do all three,
You've got 20
OK?
seconds.
Yeah, OK, my first one, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain.
Oh, yeah.
A boy has gone to a club he wants to play for.
I've got him as a winner.
Well, I'm sorry, but I've got him first.
OK.
And he's turned down a deal from another club where he would have got another 60 grand a week. That's $3 million a year, over 5 years, 15 million.
OK.
That is unheard of for a footballer to actually do it on a point of principle because he wants to play for Liverpool.
Yes.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
So good for him. My second winner is Gordon Strachan.
OK.
Because
I was
he's
going
done.
to do him as well.
Well, sorry, but I got him first. And he did an amazing job for Scotland tonight and has given them some hope. And my third one is a man called John Hart, who is a very wealthy man, a multi-millionaire. He's 81. His wife, Karen, 61, has already had £3.5 million in divorce settlement.
Oh, yeah.
But she went back to the High Court and asked for more money.
Yes.
Because she said, he's wealthier than you think he is, I want more.
Oh, yeah.
The judge, quite rightly, and this is not being sexist or taking sides, said, hang on, £3.5 million at the age of 61 in a divorce settlement is very good money.
Yes.
I'm throwing your appeal out. You're getting no more.
OK. Well, it's about money. My first winner is Sandra Bullock.
Sandra Bullock.
Quite a few other people have followed in her footsteps, but what she did earlier this week was quite remarkable. She saw what was going on in Houston. She donated $1 million of her own money to the Hurricane Relief Fund in Houston, Texas. So I think she should get something for that.
Yes.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yes.
My second person was going to be Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, then it was going to be Gordon Strachan. Now it's going to be Charlie Miller, who is a correspondent for the Press Association.
That's right.
He's the man who broke the story of Princess Diana's death,
which I released.
Unlike you, who have been claiming it all these years, and he's actually been involved in all sorts of documentaries over the past few days because, of course, it's the 20th anniversary of Princess Diana's death. Yeah. Not once has he mentioned you, not once has anybody talked to you, not once has your name appeared in any form in any television documentary about what happened. Therefore, I can only confirm that he was the man that broke the story and not you.
I gave all those documentary makers the name of Charlie Miller and the phone number of him and said it was Charlie's story, not mine. I did the right thing, but I was the man who released the information. I took the risk.
OK, and my final one is Andy Carroll for getting away from that horrible guy that was trying to steal his watch for 22,000 quid.
Yes.
And he managed, although he did manage to crash into a few cars, he was full of the ability to get away. And so, therefore, you have to say, in that case, he's a winner because he's also managed to get this horrible little nasty piece of work put into prison because he's an habitual criminal.
I think he sort of panicked, didn't he, and sort of crashed. I mean, a guy crashed into 10 cars fleeing from a would-be robber. I'm not sure that's a winner, to be honest.
Well, I think it is because he's managed to get this guy locked up, so that's all good. That was winners and losers. You can now go to the two mics and vote now. The poll will be open for an hour.
That's right.
Talk Sport.
Vote Porky.
But I can't stay away from you. I don't want to let you go. No, it's killing me, that's true.
That's Gloria Estefan.
Exactly, I knew that.
Did you?
When
you
we
know
came
this
back,
song?
you kept saying, oh, who's this? I don't know who this is.
No,
You're not up at the time.
Oh, no, I assumed it was Gloria Estefan because we talked about it.
Exactly.
It's not a song that I know.
No,
I didn't realise you had Gloria Estefan's greatest hits.
No, I don't.
Do you know that song?
Yeah, I knew that song.
What's it called?
Hey?
What's it called?
It was called...
You're so transparent.
No, it was called...
What's it called?
Time With You.
Really?
Yes.
You sure?
Well, that was what it was known as. Okay?
Absolutely. I'm sure you're right. Now, listen, we've got all the papers here. We're going to be asking you to tell us what they're saying about Wayne Rooney in a moment. However, what you can do instead, if you're out there listening, is vote on the winners and losers competition. The voting is open now. 50 minutes left. At the moment, the score is 54% to 46% in your favour.
Yes, I know.
Because you have somehow managed to mangle up the sort of the doppelgangers and the various fake accounts and all that gerrymandering that used to go on, which is why we killed it off in the first place.
No, not at all.
So that's the way it's going.
Not at all.
I mean,
folks,
please, let's try and make it a little bit more even.
Yeah, no, listen, folks, I want you to have a look at this, and it's vote Porky, vote often.
No, you can't vote more than once.
No, you can only vote once. I always say that, we've got to play this fair, and I want you to vote only once, right? Only once. But, at the moment, I'm leading 54-46. Let's try and increase that lead, please, OK? Get onto the old poll.
We've got some people to talk to,
Yeah, I know.
So long
I know. But I just feel like, it's great being in the lead.
I see. Let's talk to Craig, who's a West Ham fan, because he's not happy with the way that Slaven Bilic is being treated. I don't know who he's unhappy with, but let's find out. Craig, a very good evening to you.
Evening, how's it going?
Yeah, very well, mate. Who are you upset with?
Oh, well, just Sullivan and the board, really. I'm not being funny. It's the way they're treating Bilic now. It's the way they've treated Allardyce. It's the way they treated his owner as well. They're just every manager. They just completely undermine it. They've done exactly the same thing with Bilic again. With what Sullivan's come out and said tonight.
And what exactly has he said that's changed everything, though? Because, the problem with Slaven Bilic is that he's got a pretty bad situation on his hands at West Ham, and he doesn't appear to know what to do about it.
Well, yeah, but what he's come out with tonight, he's come out with a load of old tosh saying that apparently Sporting Lisbon come back to us last night and actually accepted the first offer with Carvalho, and it's just rubbish. It's just rubbish. He's just throwing Bilic under the bus. You watch it, we'll get a couple more bad results, and that's it. Bilic should be gone. And he also said that apparently Bilic got offered Renato Sanchez and some other guy who I cannot pronounce his name at all. And it's just rubbish. It's rubbish. I'm sorry, it's just complete rubbish.
Tell you what, but hang on, Craig, what is rubbish is the way West Ham are playing at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, I know that. I'm not denying that. It's been absolutely tosh.
Well, hang on, Craig. You can't have it both ways. At the moment, West Ham haven't got a clue. You've played 3, you've lost 3, you haven't scored a goal, I don't think, have you? This is it's a drivel. Of course you've got to replace your manager.
Goal difference of -8.
Yeah.
Right? 1-0, draw 0, lost 3.
Yeah. We've got it. What are you talking about? We've got it nowhere at the moment.
Yeah, but so what? What are the owners supposed to do? Aren't they supposed to look for a new manager under those circumstances?
Yeah, if they're not back, if they don't think he's capable, which they obviously don't, get rid of him. Right? Get rid of him and back someone new.
Yeah.
Right? But don't just completely undermine him. And then they're pretty much saying he's pretty much come out tonight and said Bilic got offered a few players, but he turned them down and said he's happy with the squad he's got. He's pretty much lining them up there just to be sacked, really, isn't he?
Well, he didn't want Snodgrass, did he?
If that's what he wants to do, get rid of him.
Well, yeah, hang on. I don't understand your argument. So, get rid of him if he's no good, and then you're saying he's being stitched up.
He's being undermined.
Yeah, exactly.
As you say, I think you can't have it both ways.
No, you can't. And, Snodgrass was clearly an appointment by the board. Bilic didn't fancy him, didn't even know where he played when he brought him on the first time. The whole thing's a fiasco, but it's not working for Bilic, and I'm afraid Bilic doesn't own the club, the other gentlemen do.
Yeah.
So, who pays the piper calls the tune.
And the quote I'm seeing here from the owners, right, is overall, Slaven is happy with the business we have done during the summer transfer window. We received the manager's wish list before the window opened, and we have managed to get the top 4 players on it. So that's Sullivan's quotes tonight. Doesn't sound like he's undermining him to me. However, we can talk more about this coming up. Craig, thank you very much indeed for your call. Coming up next, though, we're going to get Henry Winter's view of the England game and also, perhaps, what is going on at West Ham. This is TalkSport.
In he comes towards Harry Kane, who chests it down, and he's put it in as well. 2 in 2 minutes. Harry Kane second of the night, and England lead by 4-0. A late gloss on a disappointing night.
A late gloss on a disappointing night.
Yeah.
I suppose that pretty well sums up the game and the feeling that we were getting from an awful lot of England fans as they were calling us after the game. England won 4-0, but it didn't feel like a 4-0 victory.
Funny our commentator used the word gloss.
Yeah.
Because some say it's like watching paint dry.
Well, that's an interesting point.
Yeah.
In fact, some of the back pages are referring to that. But let's talk to Henry Winter, the Times chief football correspondent, a good friend of the show. He's down in Malta. He watched the game. Henry, a very good evening to you. Thanks for joining us.
Well, it was like watching paint dry. I second that emulsion, as they say.
That's right. Very good.
And I was like, no, it was poor. And I thought, I'm back in town now in St Julian, Spain. You probably hear the. It's a bit noisy in the background because the hotel I'm on is in a street full of bars.
Yes. Nothing new there for you, Henry.
Nothing new. Obviously, I've finished my work, but what was interesting is that a lot of the England fans left early, and I've never seen before them actually going up to the stewards and sort of asking through the fence for them to pass their flags back. So normally when you see fans leave slightly before the end, you think, well, they might be going off for, to the loo or get a drink or whatever. Yeah. But actually they were collecting their flags and they were going into town from about the sort of 60th minute onwards, even after Kane had scored. So, a lot of questions for Southgate. But look, a good night for Kane. 10 goals in 20 internationals. Yeah. Showed that why Rashford must start, but I think I was surprised to see two holding midfielders against a team ranked 190th in the world. I was surprised to see two non-ball playing centre halves, as it were, in Cahill and Jones. I thought it was a little bit cautious by Southgate, but the last 5 minutes, sort of, as your commentator said, added a bit of gloss to the scoreline.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Henry, what do you think about this this campaign that Gareth Southgate is determined to use to turn him into some sort of cerebral, new age like boss, where he goes around talking to the All Blacks and other sporting organisations? I mean, that proves to me, A, England managers have not got enough to do with their time, and B, what's it all about? Why shouldn't we be concentrating on football rather than trying to impress the rest of the world that, I'm cerebral and I think in parallel lines and all that kind of stuff?
Well, I'm just surprised with the All Blacks thing because, look, they're a fantastic team, but I think anyone who knows anything about the DNA and the culture of the All Blacks, it's something that's instilled in their players almost at birth.
Yes.
This whole thing about humility, and I won't use some of the language that they use to describe the type of players they don't want in their squad, but they're pretty emphatic about that. And you can't superimpose a culture like the All Blacks have on English players who are aged 18, well, not 18, but sort of 19, 20 to 24. If you could bring that culture in fact, we asked Southgate about it yesterday, and he said, well, listen, we're trying to bring it in to the younger age groups. But in a way, it has to go back into the schools, it has to go into the grassroots sporting system, so that humility, that concept of team before self, that element that it's about the glory rather than about the money. If you're good, then the money will come and find you. That has to be instilled at a very young age. You can't suddenly bring that into kids who've had 10 years in the academy system, which is all about the individual, and it's for many of them, it's about making money.
But also absolutely. For the All Blacks, I mean, one of the reasons that they are the top rugby union team in the world is because of the rugby they play. It's not just because they've got, a great culture of kind of team effort and humility and all that. It's because they're brilliant rugby players, because they teach a particular style of rugby which is attractive, which is dynamic, and which is brilliant, and which nobody else can seem to be able to live with.
Well, that, and they also they grow up in a world where the national team is so important. Whereas, unfortunately, in the last sort of 20 years, since the Premier League started coming into play, and particularly with the Champions League now as well, the leading players, their focus is increasingly on their clubs, not simply because of the money, but because also, if you look at the Champions League, the standard is often invariably better than international football. Yeah. So I do feel slightly sorry for Gareth Southgate in that he's dealing with a perfect storm of young players not necessarily getting too much opportunity, but also he's living in this age where club is king.
Yes, man, absolutely right. Now, as we march now towards another competition, Russia next year, Henry, do you see anything changing once we get to the competition proper that hasn't been has been the problem in the previous two tournaments?
Well, I think it usually worsens from qualifying until we actually get into the to the tournament, and we get up against some decent teams who can retain possession, teams who'll be better than Malta. But then, having said that, we slipped up against Iceland, who really, when you look at the quality of some of the players that England have, England should be doing better. But this is a classic problem, and for me, England is a psychological problem. You've got players who we've seen down the years deliver in the golden generation delivered in Champions League finals, deliver for their clubs in the league, but simply couldn't do it when they put the England shirt on. You've got some very good young players coming through now, but are they going to be strong enough mentally? We've seen it in 7 out of 8 tournament shootouts. England players, when the pressure is on, they're freeze. So for me, look, it's partly the media's fault, the pressure we put on them, partly the fans' expectations. So I think, in fairness, those have actually been lowered, probably numbed by recent experience at tournaments. But it is psychology now, and I think Southgate has realised that. And in fact, even when he was working in television, even before he even got anywhere near the under-21s or the senior team, he'd always advocated England using a psychologist, because that is key just to get this mindset right.
Yeah, but, there doesn't seem to be any evidence of that having worked before. Why would it work again?
Well, I don't think it will.
No, that's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean. So why can't he see that? Why can't he say, hang on, we've been down this road, it doesn't work. What are we doing? It's still doing it for?
Because I don't think there are any other, we've, as you say, we've tried different things, but at some point, look, it might not work with the mindset, but clearly that is the flaw that has to be addressed.
Yeah,
I think we do have technical players. You're not telling me that Dele Alli is not a technical player. Marcus Rashford should be starting. He's a terrific player, but two holding midfielders against a team 190th in the world.
Yeah, unbelievable.
So that was disappointing from Southgate. But he will point to the fact that England are top. They're heading, if not serenely, but they are heading fairly smoothly towards Moscow.
Yeah.
And that's then when the tests come. England, you would hope, would get out of the group. But then it's the first knockout game is when Southgate will really be judged.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Now, let's talk about Wayne Rooney, Henry, because obviously that's a story that also makes it onto the back pages. A lot more sort of detail. I don't know how much of a chance you've had to see what you've got, but the Times itself have got a piece saying that obviously Ronald Koeman is going to be pretty disappointed with what's happened.
Well, absolutely. I mean, he'll... I just find it extraordinary in the modern world with the amount of money that players are paid. You just don't get a driver.
Yeah,
how much does it? But seriously, I mean, not just a taxi, because there's an element of whoever the star is might want the privacy of having a driver who he can trust or should be able to trust, paying him. I don't know what a driver is. I drive myself everywhere. But say it's 30 grand a year. That is, for some footballers, that's what, 2 days' wages.
Yes.
My maths is terrible. So it's do it. So don't put yourself in that situation, regardless of what may or may not have gone on. Also, it was a crazy thing to do. But also, the point that Wayne Rooney has been making is that I've been going to spin classes. I've been getting myself fit. And he has started the season looking good.
Yeah.
But you can't... I don't know how much he drank, but obviously there was alcohol clearly taken. But you can't do that if you are in the twilight of your career and you're playing for the club of your dreams, your childhood love, Everton Football Club, and then going out and having a drink like that. I mean, do we hear many of the Spanish World Cup winners going off and doing that?
No.
I mean, not really.
You just can't imagine it happening. Henry, listen, we've got to leave you there. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Henry,
indeed.
thanks very much.
Henry Winter, Chief Football Correspondent of the Times of London, of course, having watched the England game with some comments there on Wayne Rooney. We'll look at all the back pages in detail coming up a little bit later on. This is TalkSport.
As your TV reviewer, I can reveal there are no plans for a new series.
Yeah, no, but wasn't there a previous series?
Oh, hang on, wait a minute. It says here there might be a new series. What's your problem?
Now, what a bonus this is, right? Friday night,
Yes.
PorkyVision.
Yes.
Now, this is something that normally you would hear, say, on a Wednesday.
Yes.
But we thought we might give you a little bit of a special treat.
Indeed.
So you can have the Porkmaster's, the benefit
Yes.
of the Porkmaster's wisdom
Yes.
of vis-a-vis what's been on television.
Absolutely.
So why don't you tell us what you've been watching?
And just before I do, by the way, the two Mike's winners and losers.
Yes.
Okay. Porky Parry, 56%.
Yeah.
Mike Graham, 44%.
Yes, a bit of a pasting I'm taking.
The
at
margin has extended, so
It has.
keep voting, people, please, because I really want to beat...
25 minutes left.
I want to beat MG into the ground tonight.
Yeah.
You know, I want a very, very
Slash, isn't it?
substantial victory,
Yeah,
please.
okay.
So there we go.
You only
okay?
get 1 point for it. It doesn't matter how substantial it is. So whether it's by 2% or 20%, you only get 1.
Yeah, that's
all it
absolutely
means.
true. Now then, let's get into PorkyVision, okay?
Yeah, let's do it.
There were two programmes I watched this week
Yeah.
which are incomprehensibly bad because of the way they finished the series,
Oh, yeah.
okay?
Okay.
Now, first of all, you got Riviera.
Yes.
And that was a 10-part series.
Yes.
And I watched every one after the other, you know, for the first
binge
6.
watch it, did you?
And then I binge-watched the second 4 when I was down on the coast this week,
Oh,
okay?
yeah. Okay.
Now, it's quite ridiculous because the heroine of it is the American actress lady, okay?
Yeah.
Who was the main female lead part, the widow of the Russian billionaire blown up on the yacht at the start.
Oh, yes.
That's why it was called Riviera,
Yes.
okay?
And it's got the woman from the Bourne films in it, isn't it?
Got one from the Bourne films in it, yeah, that's absolutely right.
Yeah.
So what happens is that she then spends the next 9 episodes finding out what her husband's really up to.
Yes.
Came to the conclusion that he was actually laundering hundreds of millions of pounds.
The murky world.
In a murky world through so-called art purchases, and
Oh, yeah.
some of the paintings were even false and copies and all that kind of stuff, you know. And then discovers a really much more murky world in which people are torturing each other because they need information.
You like all that, don't you? You like a bit of torture.
Oh, I don't like torture. No, they're pulling his teeth out with pliers.
Oh.
Yeah, without giving him any anaesthetic.
Wasn't that what they were going to do in... what was the movie they were going to do that in, and then they didn't actually do it? Was it in Peaky Blinders?
Peaky Blinders, they did pull his tooth out in
Did
the
they?
garage. They all surrounded him and pulled one of his teeth out.
Okay.
But...
do you know there's a new series coming out soon?
I know, yeah, it's great. It's good news. But anyway, so she then turns from the first episode to the 10th from, you know, just a sort of a grieving widow who's lost her husband in an accident to a wicked and dangerous murderess.
She does?
Yeah,
Blimey.
because... she suddenly discovers that the son of the man she married, because obviously he had a previous wife, you know, with children, had been lying to her all along about her husband being a philanderer, you know, secret rooms in which he took his, you know, his mistresses and secret flats and all that kind of stuff. Well, one in particular, they thought, but in fact it was the son himself who was having sexual relations with the woman, but told her it was his dad and all that kind of stuff. So, family show. So anyway, in a mad twist to the end of the plot, she invites this son to a boat that they have moored somewhere on the Riviera.
Right.
And she says, come on, let's go out for the day, get some wind in our hair, and then we can, free ourselves from this misery where, you know, we've in war against other families and people are torturing us and pulling our teeth out and all that. So they go sailing off into the Mediterranean, and she then gets a knife out of the knife cupboard and stabs him to death on board the boat.
Blimey.
Yeah.
She's his stepmother, right?
She's a stepmother.
Very harsh, isn't it?
And she's even sort of admitted to fancying him, you know, and he really fancies her because she's much younger than the husband she married.
I see, so they're quite similar in age.
Yeah, quite similar in age, yeah. But she then sort of hugs him, but pulls a knife out of her pocket, oof, into the stomach, first one, oof, into the stomach, a second one.
Right.
Then he rolls down on his back, and she then gives him, like, at least 40 stabs, a bit like that Tracy girl, you know, we were talking about last week.
Is it quite bloody, this show?
Well, it's quite bloody, but then, do you know how the show ends?
How does it end?
Well, she leaves him on the deck at the back of the yacht.
Right. There's nobody else on the yacht, presumably.
Nobody else on the yacht, no.
Right.
And she goes and takes the wheel.
Yeah.
And then, almost as if somebody had read a book about sailing off into the sunset.
And she sails off into the sunset.
Yeah, but with the body still on the boat.
How bizarre.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So some people may not have seen that yet.
No, well, that's good, because now they don't have to bother.
No, they have to bother, no, because I watched all 10 episodes, you know, and it was quite good.
That doesn't sound like much of an ending.
Well, this is what I'm saying.
She's going to chuck the body overboard.
Well, I would have thought so, yeah, because then she can always say that, you know, it was an accident or something like that, or maybe get eaten by sharks or something, or maybe...
Well, actually, if you chuck him in, he probably would get eaten by sharks.
Yeah, that's right. Never surface, again, or all that kind of stuff, and or the thought it will rot in the water or something like that. So what I thought is, with my smarter than the average bear brain, I thought they've left this for a
second series.
Exactly, left it open. So,
well, I mean, it would be stupid not to, wouldn't it? Because I suppose something is that successful.
Well, apparently, they can cost up to $100 million to make these.
Yeah.
This is a Sky drama packet, specially made series.
Yes. Is it not been made in sort of conjunction with one of the big American channels,
may
like
well have been.
HBO
or something? May well have been. I don't know the answer to that one, but certainly it's it's on Sky Atlantic.
Yeah.
No, it's on Sky itself, I think. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Now the other one, which is more ridiculous.
Yeah.
I've told you about this before. It's called Trust Me. It's about a woman who's a nurse who assumes the identity of a doctor and moves from Sheffield.
I don't think you have told me about
Yes, I have. Yeah, this nurse in Sheffield, her marriage is broken up, her life's in ruins, she won't be able to afford to live on her own. She's got a little girl she's got to bring up. Her husband's a wastrel and a drinker and a gambler.
Yeah.
But she goes to see a friend who is emigrating to Australia.
Oh, yeah.
And she finds the friend's file with all her details in it in the house that she's, leaving. She's thrown it all out. She's moving to Australia.
Right.
She takes the file, which very conveniently has got things like her birth certificate in it, her passport details and her doctor's certificates and all that, and then assumes the identity of a doctor and takes her friend's name, and then goes and gets an interview at Edinburgh Hospital and is appointed as a doctor.
Right.
Despite the fact
Don't they actually bother checking up on these things?
Well, the thing is, another doctor in the second episode or third episode at the same hospital thought she doesn't look much like a doctor. She doesn't seem to know very much. He looks up the name of her on a website and finds she's not a real doctor.
She's not a real doctor.
The doctor's emigrated to Australia.
Oh, right.
Now, if he can find that out, why didn't the authorities?
And
anyway,
so what happens then?
Well, it gets more and more ridiculous.
Yeah.
She then sort of, bungles her way through, she's in an accident and emergency, so people have been brought to with horrendous injuries from car crashes and things, and she's sticking pipes down their throat, she's slicing their throats open to put
And why does she want to be a doctor when she's not a doctor? That's
because she earned a lot more money as a doctor than you do as a nurse, and she needs the money to bring a child up.
Right.
But then her deadbeat husband, this is, the end of it is so ludicrous. So the doctor that has found out who she is actually having an affair with her as well.
Oh, yeah.
So, they're having sexual relations.
God, that's a bit sordid, isn't it?
It's a bit sordid, all this.
And what channel is this on?
This is on BBC.
Is it?
I think.
All right.
I'm having ITV.
Okay.
It's one of the two.
But one of the big ones.
Yeah.
Or terrestrial channels, I suppose you would say.
Terrestrial channels, yeah. So, anyway, it so becomes so ridiculous at the end. Anybody could have exposed her as a doctor, and then a doctor she works with, a female doctor, is then revealed to be an alcoholic.
Right.
She walks around with this water bottle, sipping water all the time.
But it's not water.
A bit like our friend Colin Bell used to in Scotland. But it wasn't Iron Brew in his bottle, it was whiskey.
It was
and
whiskey.
in her bottle, it's not water, it's vodka.
Right.
And so,
See, I could believe it with vodka. With whiskey, you would surely smell that it was whiskey.
You'd have thought so, yeah. But anyway, so what happens at the end is she thinks she's about to be exposed, by, somebody else has found out her secret identity. She's called her to a meeting, but she's then offered the job as head doctor because the alcoholic doctor's going off for drying out treatment, okay?
But what about the guy that knows she's not a doctor?
Well, they're going to get married.
Right.
Amazingly, except she is still married to this deadbeat in Sheffield.
Okay.
So he turns up. This is where the plot becomes really stupid.
The deadbeat turns up.
The deadbeat turns up because he wants more contact with his child.
I see.
So he works for some delivery company in Sheffield who've got a depot in Edinburgh. And they transfer him. He turns up. She says, I can't have you here. He says, why not? You're still a nurse at the hospital. But, of course, he'll find out that she's posing as a doctor, you see.
Right.
Anyway, what happens is, excuse me, the little girl runs away because her parents are having a row.
Yeah.
The father runs into the road to get her and gets knocked down by a car.
Hit by a car, right.
But then the real, mystery and stupidity of the plot is that she then gets offered this job as head of a department, even though she's not even a doctor.
Right.
But
Well, luckily she can help the guy who's just been run over.
Well, no, this is the point. So the bloke who's been run over is taken into the accident and emergency.
Right.
And then the bloke that this woman's sleeping with, the other doctor, decides to put a pillow over his face and kill him.
Dear God.
Except you don't know if it's a pillow or whether he's just strangled him
There's
or
not
whatever.
much of the old Hippocratic oath going on here,
No. So she turns up in accident emergency, say, how is he? And the doctor says, sadly, we lost him. And that's a very convenient solution to everybody's situation.
Yeah. Well, I suppose it is.
Yeah. So
but, nobody suspects him, though.
Well, so now you've got one doctor.
Is it still going on, this show, by the way? Is that
No, it's ended. That's how it ended.
That's the end of it.
So it ended.
So you've told us the ending of that one as well.
No, it ended happily ever after.
Okay.
She suddenly becomes senior doctor in the department, but she's not a doctor.
Well, when you say happily ever after, it's not so happy for the guy who's been murdered.
Well, no, he's not happy at all.
Not happy.
But he's away. He's off to the mortuary. Dead men don't speak.
No, it's true.
So he's been strangled, or the pillow's been put over his face, or they've switched off his oxygen machine or something. Yeah. So he's brown bread.
Yeah.
And but the guy she's now living with and will now be able to marry. Yeah, the murderer. Yeah. She'll now be able to marry because her first husband's now deceased.
Yes.
Because
she's a widow.
And she's a widow, and the guy she's going to marry murdered her first husband.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous. And then you see us, they're all walking along a beach, having a happy day out and all this, and their murder and falsehoods of doctors. It's ludicrous.
Sounds like,
ludicrous, yeah.
That's a very bad moral compass.
Oh, yeah,
going
absolutely
on there.
dreadful, absolutely dreadful.
So those are the two shows. So it was Riviera, and what was the second one called?
It was called Trust Me. You trust me, I'm a doctor.
Trust
you know
me,
what I mean?
I'm a doctor. I like it.
But it was the most ridiculous plot I've ever come across in my life. I mean, you and I could have found out she wasn't a doctor by Googling something on your tab there. You know what I mean? Your iPad.
All right. Okay.
Ludicrous.
Well, that's the end of that.
Yeah,
that was
and she didn't know
PorkyVision.
anything. And we used to bring in these
these
victims.
Finished now.
And she wouldn't know how to treat them, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Don't bother.
Yeah.
This is Talk Sport.
Yeah.
People are strange when you're a stranger. Faces look ugly when you're alone. Women seem wicked when you're unwanted. Streets are uneven when you're down, when you're strange.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. The voting is still ongoing. 11 minutes left in the poll of winners and losers. You are still quite substantially in the lead. 56 to 44.
Well, there you go.
At the moment. I don't know if I can make that up in 11 minutes, but we can try. I mean, what happened last week was you made a plea, didn't you? And so all these people voted right near the end to get you over the line. So
that's right.
If you do that for me, you never know. I might be able to make it up. But let's talk to Simon Johnson, who's had a look at the back pages for us. He's going to tell us what's in them. Mostly dominated, of course, by a mixture of Wayne Rooney and England's game against Malta. Simon, very good evening.
Good morning, fellas. How you doing?
Oh, it is
very
morning
well
now,
indeed,
isn't it?
thank
I
you.
suppose you're absolutely right. It is good morning. Yeah. Well, I mean, what a relief seems to be the sense on the England game. Shall we start with that?
Yeah, you could argue the headline, "What a relief," in the Telegraph is perhaps the sentiment of all England fans who watched it, that the game is over, because it was a pretty painful watching experience. England very sort of underwhelming once again. Yes, we got the result. Three late goals sort of gave the scoreline very much a flattering look.
Yes.
And you just have to sort of think, it's not about qualifying with England. That's the thing, is we tend to always qualify. There are a few blemishes over the years, but on the whole, we always qualify. What we want to see are performances that suggest that the next major tournament, we're not going to see in Iceland. We're not going to see the worst World Cup exit as we saw in Brazil a few years ago. But everything you're watching right now is there's nothing inspirational about England. There's very little change. Gareth Southgate's come in, obviously took over in sort of dramatic circumstances from Sam Allardyce, but I'm not seeing much cause for optimism, I have to say.
Yeah, well, I totally agree with you there. And what I don't like, Simon, is all this airy-fairy gobbledygook rubbish that Southgate comes out with. I've studied, the all-black psychology training methods and all this. Well, just concentrate on football, Gareth, please, and see if we can get that right. And then, next time you want to inject a bit of the all-blacks philosophy into the England brains, you're going to have to start in the womb, because that's the way it is in New Zealand.
Well, it's all. Look, Gareth Southgate does come across as a very likeable chap when you listening to him and his press conferences. Certainly got a bit more about him than Roy Hodgson did. But I take you back to the sort of the internationals at the back end of last season.
Yeah.
Can you remember he took all the England players to the Royal Marines?
Yes, exactly. Now them jumping in and out of freezing water
and he
all
was
that.
He went out to somewhere like Washington State, didn't he, to watch the basketball team out there?
Yeah, but it directly referring to the Marines adventure, it was like, team bonding and all that. And we were very lucky to get a draw with Scotland. It's all very well these gimmicky, this is what I'm planning to do, all these kind of modern sort of coaching methods. But unfortunately, you've got to then get sort of like shown to be getting results on the pitch.
Yes, exactly.
Otherwise, it just looks like nonsense. And,
I totally agree.
And the scary thing about England is, yes, we've got some talented players, but I don't see an individual that is going to truly scare the best teams in the world. Harry Kane, yes, is a very good striker, 10 goals now in 20 appearances. But I'm talking about that player with an X factor, that player that is going to dribble past 2 or 3 players and lay it on a plate for the likes of Kane to bury a chance.
Yeah, like Dele Alli should be doing, but can't do if you're in a team that's got 2 holding midfield players against the 190th worst team in the world.
Well, that certainly doesn't help. I mean, I must admit, the sight of Jake Livermore and Jordan Henderson, who, you could argue about the merits of them being in the England team anyway, so the fact that both of them were there, we were always going to be on the front foot, like we were always going to be the team with the ball last night. So really, we should have just gone for it, sort of forget sort of like this is the formation you're going to play against a better team. Against Malta, we should have gone out and really sort of tried to show what we can do on the front foot.
Well, this is it. He's got, as I was saying earlier on the show, I mean, he's got a sort of responsibility to entertain the fans as well. It's not just getting the results, but I mean, he should be really playing a style of football that people want to watch. And I mean, is there any hope, I suppose, if you're looking desperately for some kind of positive, if you're a Spurs fan, at least Harry Kane's scoring goals?
I refer you to the back page headline on the Sun, pinch punch first of the month. Which, of course, is a classic saying. And, of course, a few hours after his horrendous August, which, of course, he's never scored in August, before, there he goes, he bangs in 2 goals. It's one of these weird quirks in football, especially as far as he's concerned, that these kind of things, these kind of sort of records or whatever crop up in a player's career. But, I think it's huge, like you say, for Tottenham. I think those goals were the most... Tottenham fans would have enjoyed them most of all because he's got that sort of he's got off and running now. And as we know with Harry Kane, once he starts scoring, he's very hard to stop. He just loves finding the back of the net. So Spurs fans have got something to celebrate at least.
Sure, he has. Now, Simon, a very cruel tweet fell into my phone today, and it said, Wayne Rooney giving up international football to concentrate on Everton, or did he just want to go off on the bladderation trail? And you have to say that is an opposite question for today, isn't it?
Yes, and the thing is Wayne Rooney, I remember, again, I'll cast your minds back to last November, where he took great offence to the press coverage he received.
In the hotel.
When all the pictures came up, exactly, of after an England game being caught at the England hotel, having a few glasses of wine. We don't know how many, whether it's exaggerated or not, but he took great offence at that. Well, if you take great offence at these kind of headlines, then don't get trying. It totally undermines his argument. And, of course, for Everton fans, who must have been thinking, great, concentrate on making his move to a success. This doesn't look good, particularly as all the headlines, and I refer to Everton warns Rooney, it's the back page headline on the Times. Ronald Koeman was in the summer and basically said, right, just be careful of your lifestyle. I want you to lead by example for everyone in the Everton dressing room, to lead from the front, show them the way to do it. And what we sort of a few weeks into the start of the season, and he's all over the front and the back of the newspapers. It's the worst possible thing, and the Sun suggests Rooney faces £320,000 fine, which will be 2 weeks' wages.
I think given that Colleen is on the way back, I think the 320 grand will be the least of his worries. Given what is on some of the front pages as well. Let's talk about 2 players, Simon, who also get quite a bit of coverage, and that's Alexis Sanchez and Coutinho on the back of the Mirror and the back of the Sun, respectively.
Yeah, Alexis will give 100%. Is the back page headline of the Sun. Arsene Wenger, perhaps sort of more in hope than expectation, or maybe it's just sort of like wishful thinking, he's been talking about Alexis Sanchez, of course, who was telling his Chile teammates only sort of 24, 48 hours ago, yes, Man City are going to make a move for me, and this move is going to happen. Of course, it didn't happen because Arsenal couldn't get Thomas Lemar or Julian Draxler from PSG. And Wenger is saying, oh, no problem. The fact that this move didn't work out, Alexis Sanchez won't be negatively affected, and he's going to give 100% for the club. Well, I'm not so sure we're going to see the same Alexis Sanchez. He's going to be very down, particularly, this only comes a few days after that shambolic performance that Arsenal put in at Anfield. So you get the thing that Wenger would say this. All is not well, I don't think, particularly when you sort of think that a few days ago as well, there's a lot of talk that Arsenal players were also hoping that Sanchez left because he'd sort of clearly become an unsettled figure in the dressing room. And then moving on to the other headline you suggested, anguish and sadness, back page in the Mirror. Neymar talking about his Brazil teammate Coutinho and the fact that his dream move to Barcelona fell through, and he actually sort of perhaps gives a more accurate description of what a player feels like after a dream move falls through. He says, unfortunately, instead of being a happy time for him, for his family, it's a moment of anguish, disappointment and sadness. And of course, Neymar is pretty happy at the moment because he's just earned an absolute fortune from his move to PSG.
Yeah. Well, indeed. I mean, PSG are going to be, presumably, rather a threat in the Champions League this season, aren't they?
Yeah, you would have thought so. The only problem with PSG, though, is, of course, that, yes, the French League is a source of some great talent that the top European leagues pick off, but as a competition itself, it's not the strongest, and PSG has not gone beyond the quarter-final stage for a number of years now. So it's a huge question mark over them. The fact they've just brought in Neymar, is that going to be enough to get them over the line? We'll wait and see. Yeah. But there's a big question mark. They've got bigger concerns, perhaps, over the financial fair play rules, which the Independent lead with, as UEFA to investigate PSG's Neymar and Mbappe deals. Of course, Mbappe is signed initially on loan in view of a huge transfer of £166 million next year. So UEFA, of course, all this talk about FFP, whether they really mean business or not, well, they're actually opened a formal investigation into PSG.
Yeah, well, they've never meant business much before. Simon, thank you very much indeed. Simon Johnson there from The Standard, football writer, talking to us about what is on the back pages. You've still got, in fact, no, you haven't got any time left to vote. The voting is all in. It's now currently being weighed up, added up.
Final results.
I'd be surprised if I've managed to catch up to you.
No, you haven't.
It may well be 3-1 to you.
It is.
But we will give you the result of all of that coming up next on TalkSport.
Yes.
I'm going slightly mad. I'm going slightly mad.
This is TalkSport. We are the two mics. The US Open, of course, is underway as well. Lisa O'Sullivan's watching it for TalkSport. Lisa.
Yeah, we've just seen Sam Querrey book his place in the last 16 with a 4-sets win over Radu Albot, the Moldovan, pushing it in those first two sets, but just outclassed by Sam Querrey, who, of course, beat Andy Murray at Wimbledon. It's just getting underway pretty much on the main stage between Misha Zverev, who's taking on big John Isner. The winner will take on Sam Querrey. 2 games all in the first set there. And then following that, we'll have the night match with Maria Sharapova back in evening dress to take on teenager Sofia Kenin.
Thanks very much indeed, Lisa. We've got not so much more time, but we're going to mention a couple of stories coming up, including that, that some people think they might have solved the problem of whatever that strange chemical haze was down in Sussex last weekend. We'll come to that in a moment. But right now, Steve Brenner's on the phone for us. He's in the US of A to tell us what the latest is on Hurricane Harvey, because we talked earlier about how Sandra Bullock had donated $1 million. I think quite a few other celebs have done the same. Steve, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, very well indeed. I mean, obviously, Louisiana's been hit now. Houston has had terrible problems. What's the latest with the actual levels of the water and the relief efforts that are going on?
Well, I think, all of those sort of storms that are calming down, I think now the numbers are coming out of exactly what's, gone on. I mean, these 50,000 homes sustained flood damage, they're expecting that number to rise of 100,000 homes to have been affected, by this storm. The death toll, they're obviously doing quite a lot of comparisons with Katrina in 2005. And the amount of rainfall, 50 inches, which they've had over the last few days, is more than what Houston would get in a year. And where Katrina was more wind sort of affected and ravaging storms, here, in Houston, that's obviously been problem with the flooding. Houston is the most flood-prone place in the US. They did have apparently adequate sort of flood defences in, but I think this is all coming down to the fact that it wasn't just a normal storm, it was a monster storm, and then that releases again about climate change, obviously something that Trump doesn't believe is happening or is going to happen, yet now we're seeing the effects. So the feeling is that this is going to spark not only a massive, obviously everyone is very, very upset, and you talked about the relief efforts. I think J.J. Watt, the player for the Houston Texans NFL player, has actually raised over $12 million in a sort of Twitter campaign, which only started 3 or 4 days ago. But this is going to spark, I think, a debate into climate change, which, just more sort of bad news and controversy around Trump. But I guess that's a separate issue.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And Steve, we don't have any idea, do we, about what the body count is here? Sorry to use such a basic term, but we simply don't know because Houston has been under 3 feet of water. You can't tell what's below that water. And in some cases, you can't tell what's above it because people may have died stranded on the roofs of their houses.
No, I mean, horrific story the other day. I don't know if you guys saw it about a family of 6 that were found in a van that had been caught in the floodwaters and just been submerged. You don't know until that's going to happen. I mean, nearly 2,000 people died in Katrina. The count at the moment is only around 40, but yeah, that will rise. But and also for the people that have survived, although the houses haven't survived, no one's got any flood insurance. So that, again, is the problems are just mounting up. It's absolutely catastrophic.
Yeah, it really is. And one of the abiding images, I suppose, and one of the terrible stories that came out of Katrina in New Orleans was the terrible things that went on inside the Kingdome, inside the football stadium, where people were for many, many weeks holed up, right? I haven't really seen anything similar with the Astrodome or anywhere like that. They've been using some sports facilities to put some of the people.
Yeah, I mean, I think over 30,000 people are being holed up in various places in around that sort of area. But also remember, although they evacuated New Orleans in 2005, most of this they didn't tell people to evacuate. They just told them to shelter. Which again, you remember in New Orleans there was the whole, streets were getting looted. There was a holding problem. But also, again, comparing it, New Orleans is a city of 400,000. Houston is a sprawling city of over 2 million. So the scales of the storm was obviously much more severe. It's a bigger area, and there's more people, and that's just all added together. And it's just really terrible. I've been watching on the news report. I live in Florida, but my family is basically driven from Florida to Houston 20 hours just to help them, to give them some relief. So I think everyone's really sort of pulling together and trying to help out, but it's just. Unfortunately, it's just bad news story after bad news story.
Yeah, and it's unfortunately the beginning of the season, really, isn't it? So there'll be a few more hurricanes before the season ends, if you like.
Yeah. I mean, there's problems in California. I think there's been 7 sort of very, very above average or above the norm storms or natural disasters, if you want to put it that way, recently. And again, it all boils down to something which is happening with the environment and the world, which the leader of the world, or leader of the new world, apparently doesn't think it's a problem. So, that's just another slap in the face really for people. And this is going to take years to clear up. And billions and billions of dollars in Trump said he's going to put a hand in his pocket and give them £1 million to help with the relief aid. But you're talking hundreds of billions of dollars here.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. This was seen as a big opportunity, Steve, for President Trump to pull back some popularity amongst the American people by getting down there and grasping the situation and showing, true qualities of leadership. Did that happen?
Well, I mean, I think he's due there tomorrow. I mean, you remember sort of Texas, that it would be a sort of Trump sort of stronghold.
Yes.
That sort of area. That would be the areas where he obviously got a lot of traction during the election. For the rest of the country, or for those parts that maybe aren't as au fait with him, I don't know. I mean, I don't think him just turning up in a hat, waving and saying, "Don't worry, everything's going to be okay." I don't think that will scale back the sort of contempt that a lot of people have for him right now. And I think even the image of him being there, I think people do. Shots on Obama were doing the rounds. I don't think even before he was president, I think in New Orleans or somewhere, another thing is helping out, mucking out. And Trump hasn't been on the front line, so to speak. Right, so I think it'll take a bit more than that.
Fantastic. Well, Steve, listen, thank you very much indeed. Steve Brenner, reporting from the US of A. I mean, a lot of the criticism aimed at Trump, of course, comes from people who just don't like him anyway.
No, exactly.
But one of the things that does seem a bit odd is that, he's selling those hats that he's wearing. It's got USA on the front.
Yes.
apparently he's marketing those hats.
And sending the money to the relief fund.
Well, I don't know whether he's doing that.
Well, he must do. He can't be profiting personally from it, can he?
In the initial stages of the story, there was no suggestion he wasn't keeping the money.
Really?
No.
Well, that's... what, you mean the President of the United States of America is cashing in on a disaster over which he's in control?
Well, he's not really in control of it.
He's supposed to be.
But, I mean, he's wearing a hat which he's making available through his own businesses, to other people who want to wear the President's hat. Which sounds crazy, doesn't it?
It sounds absolutely crazy.
I thought actually as well, I thought that the people having a go at Melania for wearing stilettos was a bit over the top as well.
Of course it was.
I don't think it matters what shoes she's wearing getting on a plane.
Well, when she left Washington, there was like solid ground beneath her feet. By the time she got to Houston, she changed into white plimsolls or white trainers or something, which was appropriate for the... actually, I think when she landed, she had her high heels on. Yeah. And people said she was trekking through the water. I mean, I would have thought the high heels in water is quite a good idea. You don't get your feet wet, you know.
Maybe so.
What do I know? But the picture that really made me understand the scale of this and the relentlessness of it was seeing an old people's home where all the old people were sitting in 4 feet of water up to their chest. Yeah. And they had nowhere to go. No. So, how do you get those people out when
Shocking.
4 or 5 square miles around, it's nothing but water.
No, you can't even get to them.
And another one, I saw at a hospital where there was 3 feet of water around the beds in the hospital.
Yeah.
Where do you take these people?
No, exactly.
You've got to drag the beds around because they can't get out of bed.
There's no electricity, there's no sanitation.
Exactly.
There's really serious issues around disease and all the rest of it.
Absolutely horrendous.
Horrible. Let me read you a few tweets that we've had in since you did PorkyVision.
Yes.
Leighton says, Porky is the only TV reviewer to talk about the Trust Me show about wannabe doctor without mentioning she's also the new Doctor Who.
Yeah, well, that's right, but I didn't want to complicate the issue because Doctor and Doctor Who are not the same thing.
No.
A doctor who is pretending to be a doctor...
Doctor Who might be confused with the nurse.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Doctor Who is not a medical doctor. Doctor Who is a Time Lord.
Time Lord, yeah.
Yeah, that's right, Time Lordess now, or Time Baroness, I suppose.
Well, isn't she just going to still be a Time Lord, even though she is, in fact, a woman?
Yeah, I suppose so, until the politically correct brigade get along and say, well, she's not a Time Lord because she's a lady,
Well, yeah, but there probably will be a non-gender specific term.
Yeah, exactly,
which I think Time Lord is.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
So as you don't upset anyone.
Yeah.
Kate says, geez, Porky, if you actually followed the plot on Riviera, have you been on the bladderation with Rooney or what?
No, that's a terrible thing to say.
John says, trust me, I watched the series and Mike Parry's description of events is nothing like what actually happened.
It is. It's exactly what happened. Don't worry, I watched it.
I'm not worried.
No, it says, a mind-mangling PorkyVision. Can Porky review Comrade Detective? Genius Budapest Police... Satire propaganda.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
A lot of people have asked as well in the past and are still asking for you to please review Game of Thrones. So I think you may have to do that.
Well, I can't watch it because I don't like monsters, and the monsters worry me.
I'm afraid you're going to have to, put that to one side.
Yeah.
You have a duty to the listeners, I think,
yes.
to watch Game of Thrones, even if you only watch it up until the first monster appears.
All right, well, maybe.
And you can give us your verdict on it.
No.
Because that's what they want. Now, I should also announce for you the final results of the winners and losers
yes,
poll,
thank you.
which I'm sure you're keen for me to do.
Certainly am.
You can see you champing at the bit there.
Yes.
Little excitable face.
A massive lead for me.
You won by 56% to 44%.
Thank you.
756 votes were cast.
Yes.
And that's it. It's all over. So it's 3-1 to you.
You see, this just proves the power of the people because
no, it doesn't.
in the yes, it does.
Doesn't prove anything.
In the past, when we've left the decision
to
to a juice head type producer.
Are you referring to Izzy?
I'm not referring to Izzy at all. Don't be ridiculous, And often the voter's gone against me. When we leave it to the people, the power of the people, consistently I'm getting the results.
Well, can we just
because
say...
our people, our listeners, they are the true meritocracy, democracy organisation around here.
Yeah, well, before you get too carried away, may I remind you that it's only 4 games in and it's 3-1 to you.
I know, that's a pretty big lead.
It's not really. No, it can be dwarfed and wiped out completely by me winning the next 2.
I feel so enamoured and so good about winning this competition. I might even have a plate of fish fingers when I get home.
Plate of fish fingers?
Yes.
Well, I wish you'd had a plate of fish fingers before we went to that party last night.
Why?
Which I still have to tell everybody about because of your
tell.
appalling behaviour.
Rubbish.
You burst through the door and insisted on grabbing the microphone off the guy whose leaving do it was.
That's right.
To start attacking him for stealing your job.
No,
about 25 years earlier.
But that was a joke. That was
nobody thought it was a joke.
This man's a disgrace. He stole my job 25 years ago. I've been in penury ever since.
George Osborne had no idea what was going on.
George Osborne, the editor of the Evening Standard, stood there agog whilst I
Well, you didn't know that he was standing there agog because when you came back to reality to say to me, how did that go down? And I assured you that people were absolutely mystified clarified as to one, what you were doing there,
That's
and
right.
two, why you commandeered the microphone instead of drunken speech. I said it would have been better if you'd had a go at George Osborne, to which you said to me, I didn't know he was there.
I didn't know he was there.
He was standing right behind you.
He was in the shadows.
Yeah.
No, as a friend of mine said, who I spoke to this morning, he said, that was fantastic interlude, Mike. That's what leaving dues used to be like.
That's true.
And they haven't been like that for the past 20 years since we cleaned our act up.
I thought it was also going to be very like some of the leaving dues that we've been through in the past, that you were going to get involved in a punch-up.
Yeah.
Because that's what always used to happen.
Yeah, it did always. Not me, but there was always a punch-up at a leaving do.
Yeah, but there was always somebody that didn't like you.
Oh, yeah, no, well, what used to happen at leaving dues is people just come on,
time, by the way.
terribly bladderated and inebriated, and then if the editor was there, they always tell the editor what they thought of him for the first time in their lives.
Yeah.
And that, usually led to a sacking or a reprimand or something like that.
Yes.
Careers have been made and lost at leaving dues.
They have, yeah. It was good fun.
It was great.
I then went to another one here after you disappeared off home because you got no stamina. This is TalkSport. This is TalkSport. We are at the two mics. Hey, something disturbing has just happened.
Sorry?
Something disturbing has just happened.
What's that?
Sam just said to me behind the glass.
Yes.
Do you remember seeing me last night?
Who?
Me.
Oh, Sam saw you last night.
Yeah.
But you don't remember seeing him?
No.
And you accused me earlier of being in the grip of bladderation.
Oh, you were?
No,
Yes,
I
you
wasn't.
were. Why can't you just admit it?
No,
That's
but
why
you've then
why-
gone
why-
on to a second one.
Why did you go home so early?
Because I refused to get into a bladderation
No, but
state,
you
and
went
I
and made a-
realised
no,
that
but
I'd
you'd already
been to
made-
one leaving
no,
do.
but you'd
I
already
was not
made-
going to a
well,
second.
you'd already made a fool of yourself.
I hadn't made a fool of myself.
Yes, you had.
No, I didn't. I burst
you
in.
went burst in, took over the place, which wasn't something you were asked to do.
Amused everybody.
I wouldn't say
greatly.
that.
Okay, in
No.
front of the former Chancellor of the Exchequer,
You
who's
didn't
been used.
amuse the former editor of the News of the World.
No, I didn't actually, no. But, I mean, we never really got on, so I didn't worry about that.
Fine. Now, listen, I'm not worried about that.
Yes.
However, I want to say this to you because there's a guy called Kelly from Saskatchewan in Canada.
Okay.
Right, and he's asked for birthday wishes for his wife, Nicole.
Yes.
Now, her birthday was actually a couple of days ago.
Yes.
But he says she has to put up with me listening to your podcast every night before bed. She lovingly refers to you as the two idiots.
Yes.
But as we both know, she means one idiot plus MG.
Oh, that's nice, isn't it?
Yeah,
eh?
so just wanted to wish a happy birthday to Nicole.
And what's her name?
Nicole.
Nicole, yeah. And who's the chap who's...
His name is Kelly.
Right, Kelly and Nicole.
Yeah.
Very happy 40th to Nicole. Remember, it's the start of the best days of the rest of your life once you get past 40, okay?
I didn't say anything about her 40th birthday.
I thought you said it was 40.
No,
Oh,
it
okay.
says a birthday.
Just a birthday,
Yeah.
okay? Well, have a great birthday. Whatever your age is, it's a fine age, okay? You are like a bottle of wine. You get better with age.
Tremendous.
Yes.
Yeah, well done. Thank you very much indeed. Now, we're back tomorrow from 11 o'clock.
We
right?
are, but it's until 2 tomorrow.
It's an extended warm-up because of international duty
Yes, that's right.
and all of that.
Yes.
We could do a Porky quiz, if you want.
No, we will save that for next week.
Let's save it for next week.
Yes, because Monday to Friday next week.
Yes.
10 till 1 each day, Monday through Friday.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely
10 in the morning,
fabulous.
isn't
So,
That's 10 in the morning.
10 in the morning till 1 p.m.
Yeah.
No bladderation after the show.
Uh-huh.
No. We have things to do. And actually, we're only then a week away from departing for America for our first ever overseas show in New York City.
Yes, indeed. Now, a couple of tweets more on Doctor Who.
We're
here.
going with British Airways, you know.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
One from Pete, who says, from a lifelong Whovian, Time Lady is a real denomination of the Time Lord race.
Right.
And he says, however, the Doctor is the Doctor regardless of gender. But a bit concerned that Bradley Walsh is going to be his assistant, though. That is a bit of a strange development.
No,
isn't it?
her assistant.
His assistant.
No.
He says his assistant.
No, Doctor Who is now a lady.
Yeah, I know.
So
but
Bradley Walsh is going to be her assistant.
Well, Pete is a Whovian, right? So he knows what he's talking about. but
What's
he's
a Whovian?
Somebody who's a big Doctor Who fan.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
WHOVIN.
Yes,
Whovian.
yes.
He says that he's concerned that Bradley Walsh is going to be his assistant. So he must be referring to her as him.
Yeah, he must be,
So maybe Time Lord is correct.
Yeah, indeed.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, could be, yeah.
Now, I want to tell you about this shipwreck.
I think he's good, Bradley Walsh. He was in Coronation Street once.
Was
he was
he?
good. The factory boss, yeah.
But does he not do a quiz show now?
Yeah, he does quiz shows and all sorts of things.
So does he act as well as doing quiz
Yeah,
shows?
he certainly does. He's been in one of those...
He's a Renaissance man.
Yeah, Renaissance. He's been one of those, crime review type programmes, hasn't he?
Yeah,
know what I mean?
like Crime Watch type
yeah,
stuff.
no, an actual drama, like Blood in the Wire or something like that.
Wire in the Blood.
Wire in the Blood, yeah.
Blood in the Wire.
Well, you know what I mean.
How can you get it so wrong?
Well, I've never watched it. It's got
but that doesn't mean you should get it backwards.
It's got that Geordie guy in it who goes around, walking around
Robson
Northumberland.
Jerome.
Yeah, that's him, yeah.
Now, what about this shipwreck in East Sussex? Remember last
Yes,
weekend?
I do, yeah.
It was very, very concerning for those of us who lived down there.
Yes.
Because there was this bizarre mystery gas cloud, which some people thought was chlorine, some people thought was some other toxic, noxious fume.
That's right.
Nobody really knew. But apparently, they're now saying it might have been as a result of a shipwreck.
Yes.
Right? Caused 150 people to seek treatment for streaming eyes, sore throats and nausea.
Yeah.
Lots of people were very, very upset.
Yeah.
But apparently, it was believed the haze may have caused by chemicals drifting over the English Channel. However, the Met Office said that didn't happen. Now they're saying that it must have been as a result of some kind of shipwreck.
Yeah, but, I mean, have any ships been wrecked?
Well, you think they would know that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would, yeah.
I mean, I said originally, because when we were on Sky last Monday, I said, well, surely it must have something to do with an old barrel of something.
Yes.
Which has broken open.
Exactly,
because it's been, because it's been as a result of the...
Fractured.
Yeah, fractured.
Falling over the
or
side.
just because it's been weathered or something,
exactly,
because all the sort of the corrosion that may have
salt
gone on.
in the sea.
Exactly.
Yes.
But
yes.
I find it staggering that they still don't know for sure what happened.
No, I tell you, that's it's something that you need to worry about because it might happen again.
Yeah.
Now, I tell you who else is getting upset.
Who
the
else?
old Italians.
Why?
Well, because this report came out earlier in the week, which we talked about, that if you drink Prosecco, your teeth are going to rot.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Prosecco is almost entirely manufactured in Italy.
It is.
Yeah, and...
In fact, I don't think it's manufactured anywhere else.
I think you're absolutely right. And the Italians are now accusing us of having an Anglo-Saxon crusade against Prosecco.
Why?
Mounted scurrilously by Britain's dentists and brewers to try and discredit their drink.
So they're saying it's not true?
They're saying it's not true.
Well, they may well be right. I mean, I must admit, I was slightly dubious of that particular claim.
Yeah, well, it says here, warnings that Prosecco can rot teeth, because there is a thing called the Prosecco look, where your gums start receding if you drink too much Prosecco.
Yeah, but that's what
and
this
your teeth
report
start
said.
going black. Well, here, it says warnings...
You have to drink an awful lot of it.
Warnings that it can rot teeth were dismissed as lies by Italian producers of the drink and Italian politicians amid claims that dentists were doing the bidding of rival British drink makers.
Really?
Maurizio Martina, the Italian agriculture minister, led the charge. He denounced as fake news the warning from the London Centre for Cosmetic Dentistry this week that having too much of the drink can produce what dentists call the Prosecco smile because of its high acidity and sugar.
It all sounds like a bit of a storm in a teacup, if you pardon me.
Well, they're very worried that people are going to stop drinking it. So, Luca...
I mean, what sort of a maniac would stop drinking Prosecco on the grounds that you're worried it's going to rot your teeth?
Yeah.
Unless you've been drinking it non-stop.
Well, it could be that people are.
Which I was doing yesterday.
Exactly. I was going to say, you seem to be doing it yesterday.
No, actually, I was drinking champagne.
Yeah, well, yeah, similar sort of stuff. Now, Luca Zaia, governor of the Veneto...
Luca Brazzi.
Luca Zaia, governor of the Veneto region, where Prosecco has boosted the economy, condemned the upteenth Anglo-Saxon crusade against Italian produce.
Why are they making it into like a war situation?
They are. Deborah Serracchiani, a neighbouring regional governor, said, I believe that after Brexit in Great Britain, there's a need to help citizens to return to smiling. So taken in moderate doses, our Prosecco can do miracles.
Talk about a ridiculous story, that. I mean, that is even more ridiculous than the first story.
Yeah, well...
write a story that says it rots your teeth, then get a story from the Italians that say it doesn't rot your teeth.
That's right.
Meanwhile, I would say just carry on.
Yes, that's right. It says here, London Rail Italia.
What?
London Rail Italia.
What's that?
It's a website, londonrailitalia.com, a website for Italian expats, accused British beer lobbyists of encouraging the criticism after losing market share to Prosecco, while an Italian dentist quoted in the daily newspaper Il Messaggero, Il Messaggero.
Have you had any pieces published in Il
I don't think so. I have in La Stampa.
Have you?
Yeah.
Well, you've had a piece in La Stampa?
Yeah.
What, written by you?
Well, I was interviewed in it as an English journalist.
After you fell down the hill at the Rome
No,
stadium.
it was rather more tragic than that. It was the...
you don't have to tell me if it was tragic.
It was... what was it?
Well, don't tell me.
It was...
We're really out of time anyway.
Yeah, it was Turin.
Yeah, we're out of time.
Yeah. It was it was the Heysel Stadium, and I went there because they were Juventus fans.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, she says... Il Messaggero cast aspersions on British toothbrushing habits. The British, they get damaged teeth because they don't have sufficient hygiene in their mouth.
We're out of time. This is Talk Sport.